Chapter 1293. This was Lu Mingxian of the Heavenly Sword Sect, the #1 sword immortal of the Kingdom of the Nine States, and a Dao integration stage super mighty figure. When he announced that he had taken over the cherry blossom forest, everyone's first reaction was not mockery. Instead, they were filled with fear and indignation. It's over. Lu Mingxian is here. What do we do? Don't worry. He's not invincible. We have more people on our side, and we'll be able to wear him down. Wear him down? We'll be able to fight when Master Wind Walker arrives. What do we do now? How about you go first? F***CK off. You go first. All of the cultivators who had already made it to the cherry blossom forest were beginning to feel hesitant and fearful. Lu Mingxian turned expressionlessly toward Enlin, who was lying in the coffin behind Hong Do, and he didn't say anything as he stood in front of the entrance to the cherry blossom forest. It was quite clear that he had made his stance very clear. You want to enter the cherry blossom forest? Sure, you have to defeat him first. Lu Mingxian's presence instantly intimidated the vast majority of the living beings present. Even Su Xiaolan and Xinyuan Cheng didn't move, clearly not planning to fight to the death. The Heavenly Sword Sect has to enter the cherry blossom forest if they want to obtain the Heavenly Peach Tree. We'll wait for them to enter the cherry blossom forest before finding an opportunity to do so, Su Xiaolan suggested in a low voice. Everyone nodded upon hearing this. This was a good idea. If Lu Mingxian wanted to flex, then let him. Was he not going to enter the cherry blossom forest to obtain the Heavenly Peach Tree? Once he entered the illusionary formation, who would be able to stop the people outside? Lu Mingxian turned to the 5 people behind him. All of the living beings in the cherry blossom forest have been eliminated. You guys go in to obtain the Heavenly Peach Tree. I'll guard the outside. Yes. All of the Heavenly Sword Sect disciples extended respectful salutes before entering the cherry blossom forest. All of the 4-9 Immortal Sect members, they were waiting for Lu Mingxian to enter the cherry blossom forest, but he didn't want to. However, this also prevented a situation where a black horse suddenly appeared and stole the Heavenly Peach Tree. After all, the Peach Blossom Forest was filled with disciples of the Heavenly Sword Sect, so whose immortality peach tree could it be if not the Heavenly Sword Sect's? A beautiful woman did not enter the Peach Blossom Forest. Instead, she stood beside Lu Mingxian and looked at Enlin and the others with a cold smile on her face. During the Saturn Peach Feast, my husband did not make a move because he cared about the reputation of the Celestial Court. Now my husband can make his move. Look at how cowardly all of you are. Where did the courage you used to shout at us go? Just a bunch of rats. Zhu Shan spoke with a disdainful expression on her face, and it was as if she were trying to vent all of her resentment. As soon as he finished speaking, a terrifying energy beam suddenly slammed into his face at an extremely fast speed. Her expression changed drastically, and it was too late for her to take any defensive measures. At the critical moment, Lu Mingxian unsheathed his bronze longsword and unleashed sword chi to shatter the energy beam. Huan, what are you doing? Lu Mingxian shouted angrily. There's a dog barking. I'm telling to shut up. Can't I? Lu Qianhuan raised her bright purple eyes and spoke in a cold and forceful voice. Zhu Shan's eyes widened, and her body trembled as she pointed at Lu Qianhuan. You? Her relationship with Lu Qianhuan wasn't very good, but it wasn't to the point where they would insult each other in public. However, Lu Qianhuan's actions had completely thrown away all pretense of cordiality. Huan, you've gone too far. How could you insult her in public? Lu Mingxian was enraged. Lu Qianhuan pointed at Zhu Shan. I insulted her? She called me a rat. Why didn't you say that to her? Lu Mingxian faltered upon hearing this, and he was rendered speechless. It was quite clear that when Zhu Shan was cursing the 4-9 Immortal Sect cultivators as a bunch of scoundrels, she had included Lu Qianhuan as well. However, Lu Mingxian remained completely unmoved and didn't say anything. A sense of guilt welled up in Lu Mingxian's heart as he glared at Zhu Shan. Zhu Shan lowered her head and retreated a few steps. A cold light flashed through Lu Qianhuan's eyes. Don't think that you can insult my friends just because you saved my father's life. I'm going to kill anyone who insults my friends. Mingxian. Zhu Shan turned to Lu Mingxian with tears of indignation on her face. You go in. I'll hold them off, Lu Mingxian said with a resigned expression. No, I want to be with you. I want to be with you. Zhu Shan looked at Lu Mingxian with deep emotions in her eyes as she spoke in a firm voice. Lu Qinhuan felt like she was going to vomit at the sight of Zhu Shan, and she rubbed her storage ring over and over again, as if she was thinking about something. Zhu Shan had already turned to all the other powerful beings present with a cold smile on her face. All of you stay outside. No one can enter the cherry blossom forest with my husband here. And Lin couldn't help but interject. Does this woman have a vendetta against Lu Mingxian? What's up with you constantly giving Lu Mingxian AoE attacks? Lu Mingxian. Lu Qianhuan couldn't help but burst into laughter. All of the rage that she had accumulated was instantly shattered by Lin's words. Zhu Shan was extremely enraged. Lin, can't you shut your mouth even though you're lying in a coffin? I'm not trying to brag, but if I could come out of this coffin, I would be able to slay Lu Mingxian, the #1 sword immortal of the Kingdom of the Nine States, the sect leader of the Heavenly Sword sect. Lin spoke in an unhurried manner. Zhu Shan's expression darkened. Wasn't this the same F***king person? Lu Mingxuan's eyelids twitched, and he was struck by the urge to draw his sword. A young sorceress in a sailor outfit was also laughing with glee, as if she wasn't talking about her father. Mingxian, aren't you going to teach him a lesson now that he's put it this way? I heard that he also has a heavenly peach tree, so we can take it from him. Zhu Shan persuaded. The 4-9 Immortal sect doesn't just have one heavenly peach tree. They have two. At this moment, the Holy Lord Noodle suddenly spoke. Mr. Lu Mingxian, why don't we join forces to fight the 4-9 Immortal sect? We'll split the spoils 40-60. Woof. I'll take 60, you take 40, the black dog chimed in. Boom. A noodle was slapped into the ground, where the black dog crashed into the ground. We take 40, you take 60. How about that? The Holy Lord Noodle asked. If they couldn't win, then they could join forces with the Heavenly Sword sect. No matter how powerful the 4-9 Immortal sect was, they wouldn't be able to withstand their combined attacks. Zhu Shan immediately flared up. Who the F***ck do you think you are to join forces with the Heavenly Sword sect? Piss off if you don't want to die. Holy F***ck. This B***tch is insulting us. The black dog spat. The soup in the Holy Lord Noodle's bowl was boiling over. How dare she insult the Holy Lord Noodle? You're courting death. Kill her. Two mighty figures from the Hall of Creation appeared in a menacing manner, ready to attack the Heavenly Sword sect. See? I told you that this woman has a vendetta against Lu Mingxian. Lin splayed his hands open from within the coffin. Su Xiaolan and Xianyuan Cheng couldn't help but burst into laughter. Hongdo was also cackling like a tractor. Mingxian, that's not what I meant. I think we could take all of the heavenly peach trees. There's no need to give them to those two Hall of Creation. Zhu Shan hurriedly explained. I know. Lu Mingxian nodded. Even though Zhu Shan didn't think before she spoke, he still knew what she was thinking. At this moment, the Holy Lord Noodle and the Black Dog had already pounced toward Lu Mingxian. Chapter 1294. Holy Lord Noodle and the Black Dog were both returned to void final stage mighty figures. There was no way they could beat Lu Mingxian in a one-on-one battle. However, in a situation where they were at the same level, there was still hope for them to defeat Lu Mingxian if they worked together. Therefore, when he was ridiculed, he had to retaliate. Even Sage Noodle wanted to save face. Berserk sucking noodles. Holy Lord Noodle's broth churned as countless strands of noodles imbued with terrifying power tore through the air toward Lu Mingxuan's nostrils, ears, mouth, and buttocks with scorching heat and sharp piercing power. Lu Mingxian furrowed his brows and harumphed coldly, as if he was extremely disgusted by this method of attack. A bronze-colored ancient sword was unsheathed, and an astonishing sword intent erupted forth, instantly slicing the oncoming ramen into pieces at a speed invisible to the naked eye. Moon-devouring heavenly dog. At this time, The black hound had already leapt in front of Lu Mingxian, its jaws wide open, revealing sharp, bloodthirsty fangs. The jaws were bigger than a human's, and it was planning to bite Lu Mingxian in one bite. Scram! Lu Mingxian flicked his sword, and it was as if a river had been turned upside down, vast and mighty. Blackhound could only feel a raging river rushing towards it. It had nowhere to hide. His open mouth was stirred up by the sword chi, as if he had swallowed 10 kilograms of finger chili. It was burning and painful, and his body felt like it was being torn apart by the huge force. Ow! The blackhound whimpered and was flung hundreds of meters away by the sword chi. Holy Lord Noodle hurriedly backed away upon seeing this, as it turned to Lu Mingxian with shock and horror on its face. They're clearly at the same level of cultivation, so why is he still so strong? It was quite clear that Lu Mingxuan's combat prowess had exceeded Holy Lord Noodle's expectations. Even if it joined forces with Blackhound, they still wouldn't be able to defeat that bastard. Holy Lord Noodle, isn't this Lu Mingxian a little difficult to deal with? Why don't we join forces? And Lin's voice suddenly sounded from within the blood-souled jade coffin. Join forces? Everyone's expression changed. You're not joking, are you? The Holy Lord Noodle's broth shuddered violently. One had to realize that Holy Lord Noodle was still plotting against the 4-9 Immortal Sect. Now, the sect leader of the 4-9 Immortal Sect was asking them to join forces against Lu Mingxian. His heart was too big. I'm not joking. And Lin chuckled. All of us have the same goal, and that is to enter the peach blossom forest and obtain the peaches of immortality within. Right now, Lu Mingxian is blocking the entrance to the peach blossom forest. He's our common enemy. As the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Let's work together for now and defeat Lu Mingxian. After that, we'll enter the peach blossom forest and rely on our own abilities. What do you think? And Lin's words enlightened Holy Lord Noodle and the Black Hound. Not only them, but the other forces that had gathered in the canyon were also eager to make a move. It wasn't that they didn't want to get rid of Lu Mingxian. It was just that they didn't dare to be the first to do so. Now that the sect leader of the 4-9 Immortal Sect had stepped forward, they were starting to have more ideas. Do you really think you could defeat my husband with just a few of you working together? Even if you double the number of people you have, you still won't be a match for my husband. Zhu Shan chuckled at the sight of the stirring crowd. Those two were returned to void final stage mighty figures, but they were forced into retreat by Lu Mingxuan's 2 sword strikes. So what if there were more enemies here? Who could stand up to a single sword strike from him? Zhu Shan's words were not without reason, but that didn't diminish everyone's rage toward Lu Mingxian in the slightest. Anyone would be displeased to be looked down upon like this. Right at this moment, an elated voice sounded from nearby. Enlin, it's Enlin and the others. This was a very gentle voice. Enlin lay in his coffin and was greeted by the sight of a purple-robed woman making her way toward him with an elated expression. Behind her were 4 people, all of whom possessed extremely powerful auras. They were none other than the Dark Wind Imperial family powerful beings. Mr. Enlin looks like he's in a difficult situation. Let's go and have a look. Xiang Fengyi, the Emperor of the Dark Wind Imperial family, immediately made his way over to them. After a brief survey of the situation, there were a total of 5 powerful beings from the Dark Wind Imperial family, and they had successfully joined forces with Enlin. What a domineering heavenly sword sect. Do you really think the heroes of the Kingdom of the 9 States are pushovers? Xiang Fengyi, I'm going to see just how powerful your sword is. An immortal sword appeared in Xiang Fengyi's hand as he spoke, upon which a powerful sword intent erupted forth as he glowered at Lu Mingxian. The other powerful beings from the Dark Wind Imperial family also unleashed their auras to suppress the man in the distance. Su Xiaolan, Xin Yuan Cheng, and the others also unleashed their auras upon seeing this. Holy Lord Noodle and the Black Dog also unleashed their auras. The combined auras of all the powerful beings became more and more fearsome as vital energy surged violently, sending sand and pebbles flying into the air. The surrounding living beings, who were still eating melon seeds, unconsciously tensed up as well. Lu Mingxuan's expression darkened slightly. He felt like things were getting a little troublesome. It would be easier to deal with those who were still hesitating, but the powerful beings from the Dark Wind Imperial family, for Nine Immortal Sect, and Hall of Creation were all determined to fight him. When these forces converged, he had no choice but to treat them seriously. However, that was all he could do. He, Lu Mingxian, had never feared anyone. Ah, isn't that Enlin? Why are you lying in a coffin? Do you see where my sister is? An extremely handsome man with a hint of femininity on his face greeted him with a smile. This was the second prince of the Greenwood Imperial family, Su Xian. There were also 3 people behind him. Mr. Su Xian, your sister isn't my lackey. How would I know where she is? Enlin was speechless. Even though Su Qinyan was nearby, he still didn't want to tell Su Xian. Let me introduce you. This is my big brother, Su Gu. Su Xian introduced him to a brawny man behind him with a smile. This brawny man by the name of Su Gu had a stocky build with a long beard, and he wore a suit of shimmering purple and golden armor, giving him an extremely imposing appearance. He was the polar opposite of Su Xian and Su Qinyan's devastatingly handsome looks. Blood brother? Enlin couldn't help but ask. Su Gu, blood brother. Say, what happened here? Su Xian asked. Enlin replied, so on, and so forth. Su Gu immediately exploded upon hearing this. Holy *T. I've always heard that the Heavenly Sword sect is proud and aloof, but I've finally witnessed it for myself this time. I really want to experience sect leader Lu Mingxuan's swordsmanship. Mr. Enlin, we're here to help you. Su Xian yelled excitedly. Thus, the 4 powerful beings of the Greenwood Imperial family also joined in the battle against Lu Mingxian. This time, Zhu Shan's face had also paled a little. She was feeling quite pressured by the auras of over a dozen powerful beings at the same time. Even Lu Mingxuan's expression had become a little grave as he gripped the ancient sword in his hand tightly. A smile appeared on Enlin's face upon seeing this from within the coffin. Sect leader Lu Mingxian, a just cause enjoys abundant support, while an unjust cause finds little. You have to make way for us with regards to the heavenly peach tree. I'll only have more and more allies, but you won't have anyone to help you. How long can you last? Lu Mingxian couldn't refute Enlin's words. He stood silently at the entrance of the peach blossom forest, and no one dared to approach him. Who said Lu Mingxian doesn't have any powerful beings to help him? Not far away, 5 powerful beings began to approach. The one in the lead was a woman in a black dress. Her eyes were as deep as ink, and she slowly rose to her feet with a mysterious smile on her face as she wagged her long tail. Lu Mingxian, I'll help you take care of these people. The woman pointed at the Blood Soul Jade coffin. After the battle, you can do whatever you want with the others, and I'll take care of Enlin. How's that sound? Chapter 1295. This was truly a case of calamity descending from the heavens while he was lying in his coffin. Enlin's entire body stiffened at the sight of the woman with a sinister smile on her face. This woman was none other than the monarch of the Snake Spirit clan, Black Spirit Snake. That's right, she was the same Black Spirit Snake who had clashed with Enlin on many occasions and had even fought him on many occasions. But Enlin had been tormented like a nightmare the entire time. Enlin belongs to you? Su Xiaolan's dragon sparrow sword glowed with a cold light as she glowered at the exquisitely beautiful snake woman before her, and her sword intent surged forth. So what if she was a Dao integration stage mighty figure? She was going to kill her for trying to steal Enlin. Lu Mingxian, what do you think? Black Spirit Snake narrowed her eyes as she turned to the handsome man beside her with a faint smile. Zhu Shan didn't dare to interject now. She knew that she couldn't afford to criticize this woman. Lu Mingxian nodded without any hesitation. All right, we'll do as you say. I'm very glad that you're willing to stand with me. He had no reason to refuse Black Spirit Snake. He was feeling a lot of pressure from the relentless influx of powerful beings, so he needed another powerful ally. Besides, if he really did reject Black Spirit Snake, what would he do if Black Spirit Snake turned on him in a fit of rage? Thus, the two Tao integration stage, super mighty figures joined forces. All of the other living beings were struck by an indescribable sense of pressure. Anyone would be struck by a sense of panic in the face of two Tao integration stage, super mighty figures, even if they were all of the same cultivation base. Hand over and Lin obediently, and I might consider sparing your lives. A smile appeared on Black Spirit Snake's face as she pulled out a massive golden sword in a domineering manner. Lu Mingxian shot a glance at Black Spirit Snake. Spare everyone else? That's not what we agreed on. It just slipped my tongue. Black Spirit Snake was a little embarrassed. You could do whatever you want to the other living beings. The 4-9 immortal sect cultivators were instantly displeased upon hearing this. You want us to hand over and Lin? Dream on. Su Xiaolan pointed her sword at Black Spirit Snake. That's impossible. Xin Yuancheng was also on guard. Zhu Shan chuckled with a hand over her mouth. Ha ha, what reckless fools. Don't you know what kind of opponent you're facing? Those are two Tao integration stage, super mighty figures. How are you going to fight us? In the face of a Tao integration stage, super mighty figure, they're nothing more than a bunch of useless trash. No matter how many people there are, they'll still be useless. The woman was fearless and started mocking everyone again. Lu Qianhuan couldn't bear to watch this any longer, and she was just about to retaliate when a voice suddenly sounded. So what if you're at the Tao integration stage? A man in a red and gold Taoist robe with a vast aura strolled over. Behind him were 3 cultivators with equally powerful auras. It's him, sect leader Zhu Shuza of the Vermilion Bird sect. Gasp! Another Tao integration stage, super mighty figure has arrived. What's going on here? Why are there so many powerful beings here? It's all your fault. Everyone made too much noise within the canyon. A certain creature caused a huge commotion. Zhu Shan's expression shifted again. She had clearly been insulted once, but she couldn't say anything. After all, her opponent was a Tao integration stage, super mighty figure. Zhu Shuza stood silently before Lin and the others. However, even though he didn't say anything, his intimidating aura struck fear into the hearts of all the other living beings present. Zhu Shuza, what are you trying to do? Lu Mingxian looked at the man who was also a sect leader of one of the 4 great immortal sects and asked slowly, what am I trying to do? My niece was bullied by you, so why can't I stand up for her? Zhu Shuza replied with a faint smile. Su Xiaolan turned to the man beside her with a complex expression. Uncle, due to Zhu Shuza's firm decision to join the battle, the 4-9 immortal sect cultivator's power balance had changed once again. If a battle were to break out, it was hard to say who would emerge victorious. Right at this moment, another voice sounded. Big Brotherin, why are you lying in a coffin? Ha 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 woof. A sly voice sounded. Everyone turned to discover an adorable and mighty white dog pouncing toward Lin with excitement. What was important was that behind it were the 3 immortal beast overlords by Xian, Hu Xian, and the grand elder of the mythological beast sect, Kuei. Ha ha. Mr. Lin, who would have thought that someone as bad *SS as you would be lying in a coffin? Kuei chuckled. Even though he was mocking Lin, the friendliness in his voice was quite apparent. Mr. Lin, what's going on? Bai Xian asked with a concerned expression. Lin, so on so. Is the Heavenly Sword sect already this arrogant? Bai Xian flared up with rage. Let's see what gives you the right to stand at the entrance of the cherry blossom forest. Kuei's voice was like a clap of thunder as lightning crackled around its body. Its explosive temper had clearly been ignited. Thus, the powerful beings of the mythological beast sect also joined the 4-9 immortal sect. Zhu Shan, Lu Qianhuan, and Black Spirit Snake both wore extremely grave expressions. The battle had yet to commence. Hee, Chung? Why are you standing at the entrance? Can't you get in? An extremely handsome man who bore a slight resemblance to Xin Yuancheng made his way toward everyone. Even though he was alone, no one dared to underestimate him. This was because he was Xin Yuanlin, the sect leader of the 10,000 Spirits Immortal Sect, a Tao integration stage super mighty figure. Father, Xin Yuancheng extended a serious salute. All right, There's no need for such formalities. What are you two doing here? Xian Yuanlun asked with a warm smile. Xian Yuan Chung, so on so. A hint of rage appeared on Xian Yuanlun's face upon hearing this. So on, Lu Mingxian, Black Spirit Snake, how dare you? Do you really think this is your territory and you can do whatever you want? I, Xian Yuanlun, refuse to believe this. An extremely terrifying aura erupted forth as he spoke. In that instant, all things fell silent, and all living beings submitted to him. Lu Mingxian and Black Spirit Snake, the auras of several dozen soul formation stage and return to void stage powerful beings, as well as the auras of 3 Dao integration stage mighty figures combined together. Just how terrifying was that? Zhu Shan's features paled with fear, and she almost stumbled as she inched closer to Lu Mingxian. However, before Zhu Shan had a chance to catch her breath, another authoritative voice sounded. Sect Leader Enlin, what happened to you? Why are you lying in a coffin? Even though the voice was authoritative, it was tinged with a hint of gentle concern. Enlin raised his head to discover an exquisitely beautiful mermaid making her way over the waves. She looked at him with concern in her sapphire blue eyes. The princess of the Spirit Fish Clan, the leader of the West Sea Alliance, Lan Xiaoni, was here. Behind her were the 2 high priests, Yu Fei Yu and Gu Yu, as well as a group of powerful beings from the 2 tribes. Enlin immediately grumbled, so on so. Lan Xiaoni's expression immediately darkened upon hearing this. The Heavenly Sword Sect and the Snake Spirit Clan sure are impressive. You've taken over the Cherry Blossom Forest? West Sea Alliance, heed my command. Open up a path for me. Lan Xiaoni's authoritative voice sounded. Boom, boom, boom. 2 Dao integration stage, super mighty figures, and a group of soul formation stage and return to void stage powerful beings erupted at the same time, and their auras surged forth like raging waves. There were 5 Dao integration stage, super mighty figures, and several dozen soul formation stage and return to void stage powerful beings. Even though they were all at the 10th stage Dao body, the auras and true intent imbued within their bodies were unstoppable, and their targets were the 3 people at the forefront. At that moment, Zhu Shan felt like the sky was about to collapse upon her. Not only was she unable to breathe, but her legs also gave out from under her, and she collapsed to the ground. This was way too terrifying. Chapter 1296. Who would have thought that they would have the upper hand with 2 Dao integration stage super mighty figures? But now, the tables had suddenly turned. The 4-9 Immortal Sect had an additional group of powerful beings, including 5 Dao integration stage super mighty figures. No matter how bad *SS Lu Mingxian and Black Spirit Snake were, there was no way they would be able to withstand such a force. Hey, Zhu Shan, why are you sitting on the ground? You don't have to kneel down and lick their boots. And Lin couldn't help but burst into laughter as he lay in his coffin. Zhu Shan's face was flushed with humiliation and humiliation. And Lin's voice had only just fallen when Lu Mingxuan's aura suddenly soared again. All of a sudden, Zhu Shan felt as if a mountain that had been weighing down on her had been lifted off her shoulders. Mingxian, Zhu Shan turned to Lu Mingxian with a grateful expression before rising to her feet with difficulty. Zhu Shan, didn't you say that Dao integration stage super mighty figures are very bad *SS? Now, we seem to have a few more Dao integration stage super mighty figures on our side. What do you think we should do? And Lin was still mocking her in a nonchalant manner. It was rare to have someone who didn't dare to fight him, so he was naturally not going to let this opportunity slip by. Sure enough, Zhu Shan's face had already turned green. Her body was trembling with rage, but she didn't know what to say. At this moment, Lu Mingxian suddenly spoke. I, Lu Mingxian, am here to stop the 4-9 Immortal Sect cultivators. If they want to enter the Cherry Blossom Forest, then I, Lu Mingxian, will not stop them. Lu Mingxian stepped to the side as he spoke, revealing the passageway to the Cherry Blossom Forest behind him. Please. That was a simple sentence, but it resolved the core conflict between the 2 sides. That's right. All of the Tao integration stage, super mighty figures had entered this world for the heavenly peaches. If Lu Mingxian allowed them to enter and fight for the heavenly peaches, how many of them would choose to remain here? This was a brilliant move, and Zhu Shan couldn't help but applaud internally. However, what was perplexing to the spectating powerful beings in Lu Mingxian was that the expressions of the mighty figures standing beside them didn't change in the slightest. Instead, they remained rooted to the spot. They completely ignored Lu Mingxuan's previous words. "And Lin, always be by your side," Xiang Qingya said in a seductive voice. "If you dare to target in Lin's group, I will target you," Su Xin said calmly. Zhu Shuze also laughed out loud. "How can my niece not have immortal peaches to eat? Lu Mingxian, why don't we fight?" Xin Yuancheng was also full of smiles. "My son is in trouble. As a father, I can't just sit back and do nothing. Sectmaster and Lin, Old Bull will help you this once." Kuan Yo chuckled. Actually, it was just that its hands were itching. It had the immortal peaches from time to time, but it didn't have many opportunities to provoke Lu Mingxian. A frosty expression appeared on Lan Xiaoni's face. "Senior Yu Fei Yu, Senior Gu Yu, kill them." Lu Mingxian and Black Spirit Snake, Zhu Shan, none of the forces chose to abandon in Lin's group and enter the Peach Blossom Forest. Only now did Lu Mingxian and the others realize just how powerful the 4-9 Immortal Sect was. Not only were the members of the 4-9 Immortal Sect all extremely powerful, but they also had a terrifying network of connections. That's right, not only did the 9 Imperials, the 4 great sects, and even the West Sea Alliance all stood by in Lin's group without any hesitation. What kind of cohesiveness was this? This was simply unimaginable. If the 4-9 Immortal Sect could gather such a powerful force, they would be able to crush even a super first-rate force with a Tao integration stage super mighty figure among their ranks. Lu Mingxian knew that he couldn't afford to mess with this group of people. How did things end up like this? He had only wanted to vent his anger because the ancient sword that had nurtured its spirit had been taken from him. All right, he had to admit that he had also been tempted by the heavenly peaches, but he had no choice but to step aside now. "I have something urgent to attend to, so I'll be going now." Black Spirit Snake's eyes roamed over in Lin for a moment before she suddenly chuckled and turned to Lu Mingxian. "Mr. Lu Mingxian, farewell." Black Spirit Snake didn't wait for Lu Mingxian to say anything before hurrying into the Cherry Blossom Forest with a few powerful beings from the Snake Spirit clan. He ran very quickly and cleanly, not taking a single cloud with him. The scene suddenly fell into a strange silence. Lu Mingxuan's frosty expression twitched involuntarily as his lips twitched. He had cursed Black Spirit Snake countless times in his heart, and Lin had countless powerful beings on his side, and his teammates were all invincible. As for Lu Mingxian, his only teammate had already sold him out. The number 1 sword immortal of the Kingdom of the 9 States couldn't help but feel a little dismal. "Mingxian, Zhu Shan's voice trembled with fear. It was simply too terrifying to be glared at by a group of powerful beings. Lu Mingxian heaved a resigned sigh before leading Zhu Shan to the other side, leaving the entrance to the Cherry Blossom Forest open to everyone. His attitude was quite clear. Lu Mingxian had conceded. The 4-9 Immortal Sect had won. The mighty sect leader of the Heavenly Sword Sect had finally bowed his proud head in the face of a group of Tao integration stage and returned to Void Stage mighty figures. Where there's life, there's hope. Let's just endure for now. Lu Mingxian transmitted his voice to Zhu Shan to calm her down. Zhu Shan nodded before turning to the 4-9 Immortal Sect group with resentment in her eyes. Haha, Lu Mingxian has made way for us. We can go in now. Let's go. Wait, there's so many of us. Why do we have to leave like this? What you're saying is, all of the mighty figures looked at one another, and they could all see the excitement in each other's eyes. We have so many people. Wouldn't that be too much? Isn't Lu Mingxian acting like he's the most powerful being in this world? So what if we teach him a lesson? That's right. What would the 4-9 Immortal Sect do if we weren't here? He can bully the weak, but we can't? He had to make that guy pay the price. Otherwise, he won't learn his lesson. All the mighty figures turned to look at Lu Mingxian. The atmosphere became quite peculiar again. Why are you still here? The heavenly peach tree is about to be taken. Zhu Shan yelled at all of the mighty figures. However, her trembling body had already shown that she already knew what was going to happen next. 5 Dao integration stage mighty figures and several dozen return to void stage and soul formation stage mighty figures were all targeting Lu Mingxian and her. What kind of despair was this? Charge! Let me experience the sword techniques of the number 1 sword immortal of the kingdom of the 9 states. Shut up. I want to see if my holy flame is more powerful or if his sword is more powerful. Lu Mingxian is too popular. I can't do anything about it. So be it. I'll just bully this sharp-tongued woman. Thus, Lu Mingxian and Zhu Shan were instantly drowned in a sea of powerful beings. Chapter 1297. Su Xiaolan, Xianyuan Cheng, and the others also joined in on the fun. Lu Mingxian was quite powerful, and he unleashed a few extremely fearsome sword projections with all his might, wounding Kuei and Zhu Shuza, as well as eliminating the other 10 powerful beings. He was then engulfed by a vast expanse of fearsome spell techniques. A golden protective light appeared around his body. He didn't know who dealt the final blow, but they were all murderers anyway. No, Mingxian, save me. Ah! A scream of agony erupted. Zhu Shan lay on the ground with disheveled hair and blood seeping from the corners of her lips. She was in an extremely sorry state. A golden protective light enshrouded her body, and if it weren't for this, she most likely wouldn't have lasted for even a second. Look at her pitiful state. Weren't you all arrogant and cocky just a while ago? You called us a bunch of trash. Do you think you're all that just because you have a powerful backer? This B*TCH is too weak. All of the mighty figures harumphed with disdain. Zhu Shan clutched at her wounded body as she stared at the mighty figures before her with pain and horror etched on her face. She really was scared. She didn't think that these living beings would hate her so much that they wouldn't even spare her any face. Sometimes, people who spouted nonsense were even more deserving of a beating. Farewell, Lu Mingxian, Zhu Shan. I'll be sure to carry on with your efforts. And Lin waved a hand as he lay in his coffin. It would have been better if he hadn't said anything. Zhu Shan threw up another mouthful of blood upon hearing this. She hated Lin to the point of gritting her teeth, and she was about to burst into tears. Come to think of it, it seemed that every time she had a conflict with Lin, she had never been able to gain the upper hand. Instead, she had to leave with her tail between her legs. Especially on this occasion, and Lin hadn't even done anything. All he had done was move his mouth from his coffin, and Lu Mingxian, and she had been beaten half to death. And Zhu Shan pointed at Lin in the distance, and was just about to threaten him when an extremely powerful spatial power enshrouded her body, and she instantly disappeared on the spot. In the next instant, she appeared within the Heavenly Palace's healing formation. I'll remember. Zhu Shan's finger was still suspended in midair, and a pig demon was staring at her expressionlessly. The pig demon picked its sexy nostrils. What do you remember? Is there something between us? Zhu Shan burst into tears. Wah! Being forced to the point where verbal cannon didn't even have the chance to finish a sentence was really infuriating. In the heaven and earth Dao comprehension space, everyone was satisfied and continued to rush towards the peach blossom forest. Because everyone had worked together to beat up Lu Mingxian, they were too embarrassed to fight for the right to enter the peach blossom forest or to eliminate their opponents. The scene of them fighting outside the peach blossom forest was gone. All the experts walked into the peach blossom forest harmoniously. And Lin, once we enter, we will be enemies. Be careful, ha ha. The Kuei cow laughed heartily, its face filled with eagerness. And Lin's face darkened. Senior Kuei cow, I'm just a person who can't move in a coffin. Don't you feel embarrassed? Of course I do. If I don't bully you now, it won't be easy to bully you in the future. The Kuei cow chuckled as lightning crackled around its body, giving Lin a fright before it hopped toward the entrance. Don't worry, Big Boss Lin, I'll protect you. Lan Xiaoni transmitted her voice to Enlin as she snuck a peek at Enlin in the coffin. Enlin was quite elated. He had a Dao partner to protect him and a follower to protect him. This was a good life. Even though he was lying in a coffin and was completely powerless, he was still filled with bliss. Don't worry, Mr. Enlin. I'll definitely protect you. Hongdo patted the coffin with his massive hand before turning his head to the side with a smile that he thought was very reliable. He then turned around, leaving Enlin with a stalwart and imposing figure. Thank you, Mr. Hongdo. Enlin was very unsure of himself, but he still expressed his gratitude out of courtesy. Follow behind me. There's something special about the cherry blossom forest up ahead. We can clearly see the people in there from the outside, but the people in there seem to have completely lost their way and are wandering around aimlessly. Su Xiaolan held her dragon sparrow sword as she spoke to Hongdo. Hongdo nodded before carrying Enlin on his back and stepping into the cherry blossom forest. As soon as they stepped into the cherry blossom forest, the scenery around them suddenly changed drastically. At the same time, an extremely powerful spatial power made heaven and earth twist and warp. It's not just an illusionary formation and a slaughter formation. There's also a spatial formation. Hongdo's expression shifted drastically as he let loose a cry of surprise. He looked up ahead again to find that Su Xiaolan had already disappeared. Crap, it looks like a spatial dimension from the outside, but it's a completely different spatial dimension from the inside. Hongdo had a bad feeling about this. The spell formation before them was more advanced than he had imagined. It was at least a Dao integration stage spatial formation. A Dao integration stage spatial formation was being used against 10th stage Dao body cultivators like them. This was going too far. Don't worry, Enlin, I'll protect you. Hongdo seemed to have realized that this mission was not going to be easy, and he immediately turned to Enlin to offer words of encouragement. He wanted to pat the coffin on his back in consolation. However, he ended up patting his own backside instead. Hongdo. Boom. As if he had been struck by a bolt of lightning. Hongdo almost yelled, Enlin, where are you? Heavens, I lost him. At this moment, Enlin was even more devastated than Hongdo. On a path littered with cherry blossom petals, there was a coffin constructed from blood jade. Enlin was lying in the coffin with a look of utter despair on his face. Let me out. Get me out of here. Enlin was on the verge of a mental breakdown. He hadn't recovered much of his strength yet, so he was completely unable to open the lid of this immortal tool coffin. In other words, he was trapped in this coffin, in this perilous environment. He could only lie in this coffin like a corpse. What a joke. It was truly despair-inducing. Why do I feel like I've transmigrated into another world after entering this cherry blossom forest? All of the living beings here have been separated. This is way too ridiculous. Enlin grumbled. Hongdo was still carrying the coffin on his back a moment ago, but he suddenly disappeared. Enlin fell to the ground along with the coffin in a tragic manner. Sigh, it looks like I'm destined to be a spectator in this heavenly peach competition. He sighed. There was still a good show to watch. Strictly speaking, he did not even have the right to watch. He was just an AFK player. About 10 minutes later, Master, look, there's a crimson coffin up ahead. A crisp yet excited voice sounded. Be careful, my disciple. There must be a demonic creature sealed within this formation in this coffin. It's an extremely dangerous trap, so don't alert it. A rather aged voice sounded out, and it was clear and logical. Enlin grumbled internally. You're the demonic creature. Your whole family are demonic creatures. The creature sealed within the coffin was clearly a peerlessly handsome young man. Chapter 1298. The two people who were speaking were carefully approaching the coffin. There was only one path, so they still had to walk past the coffin. Enlin finally caught a clear glimpse of the two people who were approaching him. They were two stone tribe powerful beings. Master, I remember now. Isn't this Enlin's coffin? That's Enlin in there. The younger stone tribe young man exclaimed in surprise. Enlin was quite relieved to see that his opponent wasn't blind at least. The older stone tribe, powerful being, immediately slapped the younger stone tribe, powerful being, across the face. This is all fake. This is an illusion, understand? This is a trap. This is all an illusion created by the peach blossom formation to lure you over. The younger stone tribe, powerful being, was enlightened upon hearing this. Master is right. F*CKU. You're clearly spouting nonsense. And Lin couldn't take it anymore. At this moment, the older stone tribe, powerful being, stroked his mossy beard with a smug expression. Disciple, you're still too young. Learn from me. Yes, master. The younger stone tribe, powerful being, replied with an elated expression. And Lin didn't want to say anything anymore. He decided to just let them leave. Otherwise, he would have to be bullied by these two idiots. If the heavenly peach tree in his storage ring was taken by them, then it would be a huge loss. Stone tribe powerful beings like to think about this and that, and they lived like philosophers. As such, they tended to overthink things and were prone to overthinking. The stone tribe's imagination was actually a good thing for Enlin's safety. This was fantastic news. Piss off, Enlin thought to himself. Wait, master, something's not right. I can sense that there really is a life form within the coffin, and its life force fluctuations are no different from those of Enlin. The younger stone tribe, powerful being, spoke with an excited expression. The older stone tribe, powerful being's footsteps faltered. Enlin's heart jolted, and a peculiar smile suddenly appeared on his face as he turned toward the two stone tribe living beings. Come on, fellow Taoists. His voice was ethereal and extremely enticing, as if he were a young maiden welcoming a guest. I am the sect leader of the 4-9 Immortal sect, Enlin. If you can open the coffin lid for me, I'll give you an entire heavenly peach tree. After saying that, a mysterious smile appeared on Enlin's face. The two stone tribe living beings were given a massive fright and hurriedly retreated. Master, he says he's Enlin. The young stone tribe cultivator yelled before quickly coming to his senses. That can't be right, master. If that person was Enlin, why would he try to convince us to open the coffin? He would want nothing more than for us to leave. So, this must be part of the illusion, a trap, right? Enlin was extremely gratified and couldn't help but praise him. As expected of the intelligent stone tribe, their imagination was completely accurate. The young stone tribe, living beings, sighed with emotion. I have to say, this peach blossom forest is truly terrifying. To think that he could disguise himself as an immobile Enlin. His words and life force aura are all flawless and flawless. I'm sure the trap would have been triggered as soon as we open the coffin. The first trap is already so terrifying. No wonder no living beings have been able to obtain the heavenly peaches on the 3 heavenly peach trees after so long. Enlin lay in the coffin and tried his best not to burst into laughter as he praised himself for being so smart. Sure enough, sometimes admitting to something was better than not admitting to something, making others think that it was fake. Wait, just as Enlin was gloating over his success, an ancient voice that seemed to be imbued with wisdom suddenly sounded beside his ear. The old stone tribe, living being, pointed at Enlin with an excited expression. Don't be fooled by his appearance. The Enlin in the coffin is the real deal. What do you mean? You also said that this was a trap. The young stone tribe living being was perplexed. That was before, but things are different now. The old stone tribe living being waved a hand with a serious expression. You have to realize that after you detected Enlin's life force fluctuations, our original plan was to open the coffin to see what was going on. The man in the coffin suddenly told you to open the coffin. Isn't that a completely unnecessary move? He's doing this in order to mislead you into thinking that this coffin is a trap. In other words, he's doing this because he doesn't want you to open the coffin. The old stone tribe living being was imbued with wisdom, as if he had already seen through the truth. The young stone tribe living being's body trembled with excitement. So what Enlin said was a trap. So the real Enlin in the coffin is the real Enlin. That's right. He's severely wounded, so he can only hope for us to leave. I was almost fooled. You're so awesome, master. Enlin was dumbstruck. This wasn't right. Wasn't he supposed to be an idiot? How does IQ suddenly go up? At this moment, The two Stone Tribe living beings were already making their way toward Lin with sinister smiles on their faces. I heard there's a heavenly peach tree in sect leader and Lin's storage ring. Master, let's split it 50-50. What did you say? I'll give you another chance to rephrase your words. 60-40. Let's split 60-40. It's only 20-80. I was the one who discovered the truth. Wah. How about 30-70? 3721 sounds better. All right, then 30-70 it is. Lin. All of a sudden, the young Stone Tribe living being's footsteps faltered. Something's not right, Master. What is it? The old Stone Tribe living being asked. The young Stone Tribe living being replied, How do you know that the man in the coffin isn't Lin? The traps in the cherry blossom forest are extremely unpredictable. Perhaps the trap knows that the man in the coffin is trying to bait you into believing that the man in the coffin isn't Lin in order to make you lower your guard and believe that the man in the coffin isn't Lin. We'll go from approaching the trap with our guard down to approaching the trap with our guard down. This is also part of the trap. The young Stone Tribe living being's words made the old Stone Tribe living being shudder as his eyes lit up. You're right, the old Stone Tribe living being said. Lin. The two Stone Tribe living beings decided to leave. Lin hadn't even heaved a sigh of relief yet. Something's not right, the old Stone Tribe living being said. What is it? The young Stone Tribe living being asked. Do you think what you think is correct? How do you know that Lin isn't trying to bait you into thinking that this is a trap? Then bait me into thinking that this isn't a trap. Then bait you into thinking that this is a trap, thereby leading us to decide to stay away from him. Who do you think the sect leader of the 4-9 Immortal sect is? His aptitude is unmatched, and his strategy is unparalleled. It's very likely that he has already guessed what you and I are thinking. That's right, it's very likely that he has already thought of this. He's actually Lin. The old Stone Tribe living being spoke with an excited expression. The young Stone Tribe living being paused momentarily. Master is so wise. Lin drew a sharp intake of breath. What are they talking about? The young Stone Tribe living being had yet to reach the coffin when he suddenly stopped in his tracks. Wait, Master. What if this spell formation is an extremely intelligent spell formation? It's trying to bait me into thinking that it's Lin, and it's trying to bait you into thinking that it's not Lin. It's trying to bait me into thinking that it's Lin through its life force aura, and it's trying to bait me into thinking that it's not Lin. It's trying to bait you into thinking that it's Lin, and it's trying to bait me into thinking that it's not Lin. In the end, it's trying to bait you into thinking that it's Lin, thereby baiting us into thinking that we've finally learned the truth. This is actually part of the trap. The young Stone Tribe living being made a logical deduction as his eyes glowed with wisdom. The old Stone Tribe living being pondered for a moment before nodding. You're right. The two Stone Tribe living beings were just about to leave the coffin. The old Stone Tribe living being suddenly stopped in his tracks. Wait, how do you know that Lin hasn't thought of this? Perhaps he's trying to bait you into thinking that he's wrong. I think that he's right, and you think that he's right. The two Stone Tribe living beings continued to analyze the situation. Within the Blood Soul jade coffin, Lin's eyes were glazed over as he stared up into the sky. There was only one thought in his mind. Am I Lin or not? Chapter 1299. Lin was starting to doubt himself. He had been completely confused. The two Stone Tribe living beings near the coffin began to discuss more and more in depth. The depth of their discussion had already exceeded Lin's imagination, and it had escalated to an extremely mysterious and peculiar level. The discussion continued for a while longer. The young Stone Tribe prodigy spoke with excitement. Master, you're saying that the person within the coffin isn't Lin of Schrödinger? The old Stone Tribe living being. That's right, Lin of Schrödinger. Lin. The conversation between the two of them had changed again. The old Stone Tribe living being waved a hand through the air as he began to explain. Life has no roots and is like a speck of dust. Lin within the coffin is actually in a state that is neither real nor fake. He could be Lin, but he could also be a trap. These two states could very well be stacked on top of one another. Before we open the coffin, we won't be able to ascertain what kind of state Lin is in. The discussion went on and on until they arrived at a conclusion that was almost completely nonsensical. And Lin was completely speechless. He was now absolutely certain that these two Stone Tribe living beings were idiots who were overthinking things. Then what should we do now, Master? The young Stone Tribe prodigy was at his wit's end. That depends on our choice. Is it worth it to take such a risk just for the immortality peach trees, immortality peaches? The old Stone Tribe living being spoke in a slow voice. If the coffin is a trap, then we could very well be eliminated. There are still 3 heavenly peach trees in the cherry blossom forest waiting for us to fight over. Why should we be so hung up on one tree? The young Stone Tribe living being expressed his opinion, and Lin yelled in agreement. This young prodigy was very smart. But have you thought about how difficult it would be to fight over those 3 heavenly peach trees? We haven't even reached the Tao integration stage, so wouldn't we be committing suicide by going there? But now, an opportunity has appeared before our eyes. This is a test, and it's also the will of the heavens. The old Stone Tribe living being murmured. Master's wise. The young Stone Tribe living being was elated. Just like that, after a short discussion, the 2 fools decided to open the coffin and examine the corpse. And Lin was about to cry. In the end, he still couldn't escape the teasing of fate in the Sky Vault Hall. The battle was still being broadcasted live. Many mighty figures noticed in Lin's predicament and were all amused. This is probably the most awkward contestant in the competition for the Saturn Peach. And they're the most pitiful contestants. They can only lie there like idiots and wait for their next tragic fate. I'm starting to feel sorry for sect leader and Lin. Can he make a comeback? Turn the tables, my ass. If he could turn the tables, he would have done it long ago. Did he suddenly jump out of his coffin and become a zombie? The great existences discussed fervently. Holy Angel Michael of the Garden of Eden couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. Who would have thought that you would end up like this? So what if you fought me with your life on the line? In the end, you still ended up benefiting someone else. Your final exit is even more humiliating than mine. Zhu Shan was extremely elated, and she couldn't help but burst into laughter. And Lin, why don't you stop being so arrogant? Hee, let's see what you can do now. There's nothing you can do except wait for your enemies to slowly approach you. Are you scared? Are you in despair? I can finally see you being tortured. Just thinking about it makes me excited. Zhu Shan stared at Enlin with wide eyes, as if the sight of Enlin being tortured was her greatest source of joy. The 2 Stone Tribe mighty figures unleashed defensive spell techniques to materialize a white barrier of light around their bodies before carefully opening the coffin. Rumble, the lid of the coffin was pushed open to reveal Enlin. Oh, it really is Enlin, the young Stone Tribe prodigy exclaimed with excitement. Enlin was in despair, but he still forced himself to maintain a seductive smile as he spoke in a seductive voice. Come here, my baby. You successfully opened the coffin lid for me, so my storage ring is yours now. Come and take it. The young Stone Tribe prodigy's body stiffened with a hint of hesitation. Disciple, believe in your own deductions and beliefs. Don't be fooled by others. The old Stone Tribe mighty figure harumphed coldly at Enlin before making a grabbing motion toward Enlin. You're just a useless piece of trash. Not only am I going to take your storage ring, I'm also going to pummel you. What are you going to do to me? Right at this moment, Enlin's eyes turned cold as he glared at the Stone Tribe mighty figure. Oh my, I'm so scared. Come strike me. The old Stone Tribe mighty figure smiled. The more Enlin acted like this, the more certain he was that his deductions were correct. Whoosh! A dazzling golden sword projection tore through the air, reducing the peach blossoms on the path to dust. Peerless sword intent enshrouded every corner of this space, forcing all living beings to submit to it. The 2 Stone Tribe living beings were struck by an extremely terrifying sword intent at the same time, and a sense of impending doom welled up in their hearts. Look out! There's no time. Not only was the golden sword projection extremely powerful, but it was also extremely fast, and it instantly sliced through the bodies of the 2 Stone Tribe living beings, sending blood and rubble flying through the air. How could this be? Did I really just get struck? The old stone tribe mighty figure stared at Lin in shock, unable to comprehend what had just happened. Master, this is a trap. A terrifying trap. The young stone tribe mighty figure let loose a wail of anguish as a protective golden light erupted from his body. No, it's not a trap. The other stone tribe mighty figure turned around with a golden light emanating from his body. Lin was also looking at the direction from which the sword projection had come with anticipation. He had struck at the most critical moment. He had saved him from peril. Was this a teammate? A lithe and graceful woman in a black dress appeared before them. Her snowy skin was a faint pink color in the light of the peach blossoms, and a sinister smile appeared on her face, making her appear quite seductive. The two stone tribe living beings came to a sudden realization. Lin drew a sharp intake of breath, and his face paled as if he had just lost his parents. Mr. Lin, we'll be waiting for you outside. The old stone tribe mighty figure chortled with glee. I'll be waiting for you, sect leader Lin. The little stone tribe mighty figure also felt better, and he bade farewell to Lin in a friendly manner. They weren't saying this because they were truly friendly. Rather, it was because of the powerful being that had arrived. It was Black Spirit Snake. He had finally escaped from the wolf's den, only to fall into the tiger's den. He was just lying in a coffin, yet he could still feel such fear and trepidation. What the F***CK is wrong with me? What kind of bully is this? Lin was on the brink of tears. There was no worst, only worse. This was a perfect example of what had happened to him. Honestly, he would rather have been knocked out by those two idiots from the Stone Tribe and fall into Black Spirit Snake's hands. At this moment, Black Spirit Snake had already made her way over to the coffin and was looking at Lin with a dainty smile. Chapter 1300. Sect Leader Lin, how have you been? Black Spirit Snake extended a greeting with a vibrant smile on her face. They had only been apart for less than an hour. So what the hell was this? And Lin's heart was racing with panic, but he still forced himself to his feet. After the lid of the coffin had been removed by the Stone Tribe living beings, he was able to jump out of the coffin. I'm doing well. Thank you for your help, Ms. Black Spirit Snake. And Lin replied politely. Then his tone changed, and he continued with a cold expression. If you had been a second slower, they would have been dead as well. He could lose the battle, but he couldn't lose the momentum. Black Spirit Snake's eyebrows perked up upon hearing this, and an irrepressible smile appeared on her face. Wow, Sect Leader Lin sure is powerful. How about we have a sparring match? Let's talk about sparring later. Our top priority right now is to find the heavenly peach tree. And Lin puffed out his chest with a confident expression. That's right, I've already found the heavenly peach tree. Black Spirit Snake stared at the storage ring in Lin's hand with a meaningful smile on her face. And Lin, he couldn't keep up the act anymore. Black Spirit Snake pulled out her massive golden sword. It was a bit of a cliche to call it a massive sword, but Lin knew that it had an extremely domineering name. It was a divine tool, realm creation evil vanquishing sword. And Lin's lips twitched upon hearing this. Why the F***CK did she have to go to such lengths to deal with a cripple like him? What was the meaning of taking out a divine artifact? Hadn't you heard of the saying, why use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken? And Lin grumbled internally, but he didn't show it on his face. Instead, he pulled out his evil-slaying sword with a cold smile on his face. Do you really want to fight? You're going to regret this. All right, and Lin, stop pretending. Even I'm feeling sorry for you. A brilliant golden light erupted from Black Spirit Snake's massive sword. Don't worry, I'll be very gentle. And Lin's expression faltered upon hearing this. The ferocious Black Spirit Snake wanted to be gentle. A smile appeared on Black Spirit Snake's face as she wriggled her long and slender snake tail. I'm not going to eliminate you with a single sword strike. Instead, I'm going to slowly and gently slice open your skin so that my blood will cover your entire body. I'm going to make you experience pain, and I'm going to make you experience something you've never experienced before. The woman smiled gently, but when her words entered Lin's ears, it was bone-chilling, making him feel as if he had fallen into an ice house. What kind of F***king gentleness is this? Just how big a grudge was this? And Lin couldn't hold it in any longer. If this went on, he would definitely be abused. From the looks of the woman in front of him, she wasn't joking. She really wanted to chop Lin slowly with her sword. I'm telling you, if you really come over here, I'm not going to hold back anymore. And Lin gripped his evil-slaying sword tightly as he spoke in an agitated voice. Sure, don't stand on ceremony. Black Spirit Snake's tail whipped through the air as her body tore through the air toward Lin. At the same time, her gigantic sword glowed with a holy golden light under the sunlight as it slashed down. It was too fast for Lin to dodge. Even though Lin was no match for her, he still let loose an almighty roar as he slashed toward Black Spirit Snake with his evil-slaying sword. So slow, Black Spirit Snake couldn't help but chuckle. At this speed, she would be able to hack at Lin a dozen or so times before Lin's sword struck her body. However, the gigantic sword hadn't even landed yet. A light breeze blew past. A black figure suddenly appeared. Fair and delicate feet, a petite body, a pair of clear yet pure black eyes, and a chubby little face. That's right, this was an extremely adorable little girl. The little girl extended a delicate hand and grabbed onto Lin's evil-slaying sword, as if she were instructing Lin on how to swing the sword. The speed of the evil-slaying sword suddenly increased explosively by over 100 times. Everything had happened in the blink of an eye. Black Spirit Snake's pupils contracted, and she didn't even have a chance to react before the smile on her face disappeared. A sword projection had already flashed past. Chi! Blood splattered through the air. A ghastly gash was sliced into Black Spirit Snake's black dress, from which blood gushed forth. Her face was filled with incredulity as she stared blankly at the little girl who had suddenly appeared before her. What the hell is this? The little girl pursed her lips and spoke in a tender yet domineering voice. Have you ever seen a ghost as adorable as me? She clasped her fingers together to form a sword before slashing it toward the evil-slaying sword as she spoke. Whoosh! A sword ringing sounded. Bam! A huge burst of blood suddenly erupted from the spot where Black Spirit Snake had been struck by the evil-slaying sword. So that sword strike wasn't just an ordinary strike. It had also planted a sword-intent seed within her body. It was only waiting for it to sprout and blossom into the most vibrant flower of blood. A golden light enshrouded Black Spirit Snake's entire body. The Tao observation technique had already determined that Black Spirit Snake had been eliminated. I lost just like that. Black Spirit Snake's eyes were glazed over, as if she had yet to come to her senses. Lin came to his senses, and even though he had countless questions in his mind, it didn't affect him in the slightest as he clasped his hands behind his back and put on a resigned expression. He heaved a faint sigh. I told you not to fight me. Otherwise, I wouldn't hold back. Look, you've been insta-killed by me, haven't you? Black Spirit Snake seemed to have been enraged as blood trickled down the corners of her lips. Lin, you've had an unfair advantage. The woman's eyes were red. She was extremely angry, and there were sparkling and translucent tears swirling in her eyes. She had never won a single battle against Lin. In the small phoenix world, her phoenix egg had been snatched away by Lin. On Earth, her clothes had been torn to shreds by Lin's self-invented nuclear fist. In the Tao observation technique, she had been eliminated by Lin with a single sword strike, and Lin immediately tried to salvage the situation upon discovering that she was about to burst into tears. It's all right. You'll get used to losing a few more times. Black Spirit Snake, Little Xia, and Lin, just you wait. I'm going to pay you back 100-fold for the pain you suffered today. Black Spirit Snake's indignant voice reverberated throughout heaven and earth. She was teleported out of this world after uttering this sentence. At this moment, within the heavenly palace, all of the mighty figures present were in an uproar again. Most of the mighty figures who were watching other battles turned their eyes toward Lin's screen. The sudden appearance of this black-robed little girl had completely shattered their imaginations and created a massive stir in the entire palace. My God, where did this little girl come from? Gasp! She's way too powerful. She insta-killed Black Spirit Snake. Holy F asterisk CK. What kind of bizarre things can happen to Lin? Say, have you guys noticed? This little girl is a little strange, but she's really adorable. Sigh, now that you mention it, I really want to pinch her cheeks. The little girl's appearance created quite a stir in the heavenly palace. There were even many mighty figures who had guessed the little girl's identity, but they didn't dare to confirm it. At the Heavenly Sword Sect's banquet table, Zhu Shan stared blankly at the scenes unfolding before her eyes. How could this be? How could this be? She was looking forward to the scenes of Black Spirit Snake torturing Lin, but the scenes unfolding before her eyes felt like a vicious slap to the face. Torture? No way. And Lin insta-killed Black Spirit Snake with a single sword strike. Lu Mingxian took a deep breath as he looked at the little girl in black. That's a sword spirit. There's no mistaking it. And Lin's sword has also nurtured a spirit, and it's an extremely high-level sword spirit. Chapter 1301. Sword Spirit? Lu Mingxuan's words sent shockwaves rippling through the crowd. Among the thousands of powerful beings attending the Heavenly Peach Banquet, Lu Mingxian was most likely the most knowledgeable about swords. Hence, when Lu Mingxian said that the little girl in black was a sword spirit, many of the powerful beings had already confirmed their suspicions. Sword spirit? How could he unleash the power of a sword spirit in that world? Weren't all of its powers restricted? Normal immortal tools wouldn't even be able to unleash 99% of the power of the immortal tool, let alone unleash the power of a sword spirit. That's right. There's no way that a sword spirit like this should have the power to escape from its weapon. So why isn't Lin able to use it? All of the mighty figures were perplexed. Zhu Shan jumped up with excitement and yelled at the 5 celestial court emperors. Emperors, and Lin has already violated the rules of this event by using the power of a sword spirit without permission. He should be punished. But the rules of this event didn't prohibit the use of sword spirits. Emperor Ziwei said in an indifferent voice. My husband's sword also has a sword spirit, but he didn't use it, Zhu Shan retorted. The Tao observation space of heaven and earth has its own restrictive power. He didn't use it because he couldn't, not because he didn't want to. Emperor Changsheng replied mercilessly. Zhu Shan, the atmosphere became a little awkward. Zhu Shan turned to Lu Mingxian with a guilty expression, as if to say, I'm sorry, I didn't start this on purpose. Why? Why is he able to use it? My husband is more powerful than him, and his sword spirit is an ancient sword spirit that has existed for tens of thousands of years. How is it inferior to him? Zhu Shan was extremely aggrieved, but she still refused to concede defeat. The celestial Thearcha's hand rested on the black divine tool, and he carefully sensed it for a while before replying, I can sense the aura of that little girl. It is indeed the aura of a sword spirit. However, she's very special. Under normal circumstances, it's the small world within my divine tool that has a restrictive power over all living beings within it. However, she's very powerful, and she has a restrictive power over the world within my divine tool. It's exactly because of this that she's able to materialize her power of the divine, Tao, even though she's not at the Tao integration stage. Even my heaven and earth can't stop her. As soon as the Sky Emperor's words fell, it was so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. Zhu Shan was completely rooted to the spot. The Celestial Emperor's words rang in her mind, and Lin's sword spirit could suppress the heaven and earth within the heavenly Tharch divine weapon. There was no way the celestial Tharch would lie under such circumstances. In that case, the amount of information revealed by those words was a little terrifying. Countless experts and almighties once again turned their attention to the adorable little girl. This time, no one dared to tease him. After all, in front of them was a ferocious sword spirit that was beyond common sense. As for Zhu Shan and Lu Mingxian, no one was paying attention to them anymore. Even if they did, it was with a hint of schadenfreude in their eyes. The battle between Lu Mingxian and Lin finally ended with Lu Mingxuan's crushing defeat. He had truly lost all face. As for the matter regarding the sword spirit, he had used his own strength to go against the heavens and earth. Who could give an appropriate reason to stop him? If you have what it takes, Why don't you let your artifact spirit out? You can't even let it out. Inside the universe of Tao comprehension, and Lin pinched the little girl's chubby cheeks with an elated expression. Little Xia, why did you come out? If you had come out earlier, I wouldn't have had to be so scared. Ha, I was just analyzing this heaven and earth. Little Xia wore a fake smile as she stared at Lin with her dead fish eyes. What? And Lin was at a complete loss. Nothing, I don't want to talk to idiots. Little Xia waved a hand and didn't continue. And Lin was now able to circulate a wisp of vital energy, and he was able to stash the coffin into his storage ring with great difficulty. Little Xia looked at Lin's feeble body, and a bold idea suddenly sprouted in her mind. That's right, evil was born from evil. Little Xia, it's great that you were able to come out. You're the only one I can rely on here. And Lin held tightly onto Little Xia's soft little hand with a sincere expression. Little Xia opened her mouth as she felt the warmth in her hand, but she nodded in the end. Oh, she didn't know why, but her bold idea gradually faded away upon hearing Lin's words. And Lin heaved a secret sigh of relief upon seeing this. That was way too *king close. Thank God he managed to pacify her. Without her divine weapon origin energy, Little Xia was like a living bomb that could explode at any moment. Not only that, but Lin's combat prowess was so low, so he was the easiest target. If Little Xia were to recall that unpleasant incident from before and try to take revenge, then the situation would become extremely tragic, and Lin held onto Little Xia's hand as they carefully walked along the peach blossom path. Pink flower petals fell upon their bodies under the light of the sun, bringing with them a faint peach aroma. This was a very harmonious and natural scene, as if a big brother and a little sister were taking a stroll in the park. It was an indescribably warm and beautiful scene. Little Xia, you were so cool just then. Even Black Spirit Snake was insta-killed by you. Is insta-killing the 10th stage Tao Body Black Spirit Snake really something to be proud of? Of course I'm proud. As long as I can bully her, then I'm proud. No wonder Black Spirit Snake hates you to the core. Sai, speaking of which, what's your current combat power level? Little Xia's brows furrowed slightly, and she seemed to be in deep thought for a while before replying. Even though I can suppress this world, in order to maintain the stability of this space, I can only unleash spirit nurturing stage power, and Lin was a little concerned. That's still a little dangerous. When Michael combined his vital energy and Holy Spirit power, he was able to unleash power comparable to a half-step soul formation stage, or even a soul formation stage super mighty figure. Little Xia looked straight ahead. By spirit nurturing stage, I'm referring to the spirit nurturing stage with you as the reference. Then we're invincible. And Lin was ecstatic. I'm invincible. What does that have to do with you? Little Xia rolled her eyes. It's the same thing. And Lin was extremely elated. He was going to hug Little Xia's short legs for sure. He was going to hug Little Xia tightly. Thus, and Lin continued to follow behind Little Xia. Be careful, there's a peach blossom miasma up ahead. Little Xia suddenly yelled before slicing the peach blossom miasma in half with her sword. The two of them quickly flew through the gap between the two halves of the miasma. Little Xia, you're awesome. And Lin cheered on Little Xia with all his might. Not long after that. Be careful. This is the merciless flying flower formation. It's a very terrifying killing formation. Little Xia suddenly said before violently slicing the killing formation up ahead. And Lin, Little Xia, you're awesome. At a fork in the road, there were 5 different winding paths. Little Xia pointed a finger at the 4th path. This way. Why? And Lin was perplexed. An innocent smile appeared on Little Xia's face. I can hear the sounds of battle from that direction. There are more enemies for me to bully. And Lin, Little Xia, you're awesome. Chapter 1302. Charge. This passageway must belong to our divine agriculture imperial family. A man in a jade robe roared, and the other 3 members of the dragon court chimed in unison. The divine agriculture imperial family is nothing to the dragon court of the eastern seas. A slightly elderly man with a pair of horns on his head also roared. The 4 dragon tribe members behind him also roared as they engaged in battle with the divine agriculture imperial family cultivators. There were 5 of them against 4 divine agriculture imperial family cultivators, so they had a better chance of winning. Oh, if it isn't Mr. A.O. Meng. Enlin extended a greeting toward the leader of the dragon court. He looked at the 5 dragon court members. A.O. Xiao wasn't participating in the event, so there were 4 return to void stage mighty figures, 1 soul formation stage mighty figure, and A.O. Qingyu. Enlin was feeling a little disgruntled. Why were they able to gather their teammates? Where are my teammates? A.O. Meng was initially given a fright by the sight of Enlin before an expression of ecstasy appeared on his face. Mr. Enlin, I can sense that you're in a very bad state right now. How about this? Hand over the heavenly peach tree in your storage ring to me, and we'll protect you. You have to realize that the divine agriculture imperial family is very ferocious. Enlin's expression darkened upon hearing this. How did everyone know that he had a heavenly peach tree, and he was handing over heavenly peach trees as protection fees? Did they really think he was an idiot? Enlin grumbled internally, but he knew from the greedy expression on A.O. Meng's face that he wouldn't be able to stop eating sh*t, so he decided to just ignore him. Before A.O. Meng had a chance to do anything, the divine agriculture imperial family powerful beings were already getting excited. It's Enlin. Enlin has a heavenly peach tree. Ha ha! The heavenly peach tree is ours. Get him! The 4 divine agriculture imperial family powerful beings pounced toward Enlin. A.O. Meng was not to be outdone, and he immediately roared, "Hurry up and snatch Enlin over! Don't lose his heavenly peach tree protection fee." The Dragon Court and divine agriculture imperial family powerful beings pounced toward Enlin. As for the little girl beside Enlin, she was very cute, but not as cute as the immortal peach tree, so they chose to ignore her. Little Xie naturally wasn't going to take offense. She stood in front of Enlin with her evil-slaying sword in hand before disappearing on the spot. In an instant, the sword light turned into a series of black afterimages, and blood bloomed like flowers. Her petite body was like a bolt of lightning, and her sword was like a devouring demon. Screams of pain rang out. The speed was too fast, and the sword momentum was too terrifying. They had almost no power to resist. Little Xie quickly returned to Enlin's side. Before her, 9 powerful beings were bleeding profusely, and 6 of them had even been forced out of their golden light barriers. A.O. Meng, A.O. Qingyu, and another male from the divine agriculture imperial family were the only ones who hadn't been struck by the golden light around their bodies, but they had also been severely wounded as they stared up ahead with astonishment etched on their faces. Never in their wildest dreams would they have imagined that the little girl they had chosen to ignore would instantly become a terrifying existence that could instantly kill them. This kind of contrast made everyone feel that it was absurd. Where did this freakish freak come from? What terrifying sword techniques? Who are you? Could it be Black Spirit Snake? Little Xie merely wrinkled her little nose in the face of everyone's questions. Black Spirit Snake? I've already forced her out of my body. Gasp. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. A.O. Qingyu let loose a cry of surprise. Wait, I remember now. Isn't she that little girl from the ancient Tai Chu Dragon realm? A.O. Meng also came to a sudden realization. That's right, she's that sword spirit. But how could a sword spirit be so powerful? Isn't the sword spirit supposed to be here and can't manifest itself? Everyone was still confused. At this moment, little Xie disappeared on the spot again. Run, A.O. Meng yelled. Before A.O. Qingyu had a chance to do anything, a black sword blade had already appeared before his eyes, and it glowed with a menacing cold light. He was a return to void final stage cultivator and the number 1 sword immortal of the Dragon Court, so his reactions were quite fast, and he immediately raised his sword to parry the oncoming sword projection. However, the black sword blade suddenly underwent a peculiar transformation. As the air twisted, the sword blade also twisted, and A.O. Qingyu's sword pierced through the evil-slaying sword. Crap! Ao Qingyu was just about to hurtle back and retreat. However, the evil-slaying sword materialized at an even faster speed and slashed down. Whoosh! Ao Qingyu's body was struck again. A golden protective light was instantly activated. If it weren't for this golden protective light, his body would have most likely been sliced in half by little Xie already. The disparity between them was simply too massive. They weren't even on the same level. Little Xie didn't stop there. She stepped forward and charged toward Ao Meng. A blood-curdling wail erupted. All 5 members of the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas had been wiped out. A man in a green robe unleashed countless vines and poisonous spikes in a frenzy toward the black-robed girl. The little girl's movement techniques were like a phantom, leaving a series of afterimages in her wake as she evaded all of his attacks unscathed. She then charged toward him before unleashing another sword strike. The 4 members of the Divine Agriculture Imperial family had been wiped out, and Lin was completely dumbstruck upon seeing this, and he couldn't help but clap his hands together. Little Xie, 666. You're invincible in this world, right? Little Xie harumphed coldly before sheathing her sword. Let's go. Howl! And Lin, you piece of trash. Ao Meng roared with indignation. What kind of hero is relying on a woman? You're just a gigolo. Ao Qingyu was also very angry, and Lin was ecstatic at the sight of the 2 of them within the golden light, and he pulled little Xie into his arms with a smile. She's my sword spirit. If you have what it takes, why don't you nurture a sword spirit as powerful as her too? Ao Meng was enraged by Lin's shameless behavior. Before they had a chance to say anything else, they were teleported out of this world. TSK, TSK, TSK. What a weak opponent. And Lin wore a forlorn expression. Little Xie struggled in his arms before turning toward Lin expressionlessly with her dead fish eyes. Are you done hugging me? Air. And Lin let go of her with an awkward expression before turning his eyes toward the path up ahead. This clearing was connected to 6 peach blossom paths. On the path up ahead, there were a few words composed of flower petals, upon which were inscribed the words 5 flower path. There were faint spell formation fluctuations emanating from the entrance of the path, and there were 5 dots hovering in mid-air, one of which had already lit up. 5-person flower disorderly path means that only 5 people can enter? Does the lit that mean 1 person has already entered? And Lin speculated. Little Xie also thought so. No wonder the Dragon Court and the Divine Agriculture Imperial family are fighting. Looks like there's a limited number of spots. The 2 of them walked onto the flower path without any hesitation. Little Xie's mentality was, I'm invincible. I'm not afraid of anyone. And Lin's mentality was, Little Xie is invincible. I'm not afraid of anyone. They walked onto the flower path. They had only just passed through the enchantment barrier when the scenery around them began to change. The path became both real and illusionary before splitting into countless intersecting paths, like a tree spreading its branches and leaves. A light voice sounded in the sky. The most powerful trapping formation, flower illusion, activate. Chapter 1303. Over 100 intertwining peach blossom paths with no end in sight appeared before everyone's eyes. It was like a maze, and no one knew where the paths led or where the end was. A series of flower petals danced in the air, creating a dreamy and mesmerizing sight. Little Xie's expression shifted slightly upon seeing this. Be careful, there's poison in the peach blossom fragrance. And Lin immediately held his breath upon hearing this. What kind of poison is this? Is this poison powerful? Little Xie's expression was a little peculiar. It's an aphrodisiac poison. And Lin, was she trying to stir up trouble by putting this poison in the formation? In the heavenly palace, all of the powerful beings and mighty figures enjoyed fruits as they watched the show unfold. Currently, the 4-9 Immortal sect has 2 heavenly peach trees. The Hall of Creation has 1 heavenly peach tree. The 10,000 Spirits Immortal sect has 1 heavenly peach tree. The Spring Divine Tree Realm has 1 heavenly peach tree. And the Wild Phantom Tribe has 1 heavenly peach tree. There are still 3 unclaimed heavenly peach trees. Those 3 heavenly peach trees are all located in the deepest part of the peach blossom forest. Of the 800 participants, only a little over 100 remain, and most of them have discovered the peach blossom forest and entered it for the final battle. The most intense battle is finally about to begin. All the spectators were getting a little excited. However, some people soon let loose cries of surprise. Holy F asterisk CK, what am I seeing? My God! On one of the images, a man saw a female stone tribe living being, and he took off his clothes with excitement. The female stone tribe living being also shed the moss on her body before standing up to welcome him. Everyone was astonished. Was he doing something like this in the peach blossom forest? The 2 of them were instantly teleported out of the peach blossom forest. After being teleported out, they were given a set of clothes to wear. Detected 2 living beings. Their mental defenses have been compromised, and they have been disqualified. The mechanical voice of the Heaven and Earth Tao observation space sounded. The man who had taken off his clothes finally came to his senses, and he stared at the female stone tribe living being with horror etched on his face. His legs gave out from under him, and he collapsed to the ground. That scared the hell out of him. He had almost done that to a rock. Not only them, but some of them had even taken off their clothes to the air in the peach blossom forest. A male disciple from the celestial artifact immortal sect of the Kingdom of the Nine States had even pounced toward the ball demon of the Hall of Creation. One by one, the contestants were eliminated in the peach blossom forest. Many of the spectating mighty figures began to understand what was going on. The most powerful trapping formation, blinding flower formation, had an extremely strong aphrodisiac effect. Moreover, it was an aphrodisiac effect that did not discriminate between races or genders. Half of the 50 or so contestants who had entered the strongest trap array had been eliminated because their mental defenses had been broken. Among them, there was a Dubai dog that was chasing butterflies excitedly. That's right, it was Dubai. The emperors of the celestial court actually dared to set up such a trial. If it weren't for the mosaics and the discordant images and the elimination mechanism of losing one's guard, I would have called the police. Tisk, TSK, TSK, to hell with your bad taste. All the supreme beings discussed among themselves. They weren't really against it, and some of them were even watching with great interest. Emotions and desires were things that all cultivators had to face. Being able to stay true to oneself and stabilize one's Tao heart was a compulsory lesson for every single cultivator. Therefore, from a fundamental point of view, this trap array was actually a good trial. On a path littered with fallen petals, the little girl held onto the man's hand as they continued onward, and no matter what obstacles stood in their way, they were all shattered by her powerful protective true essence. This was the case for the aphrodisiac fragrance, and this was also the case for the flower petals that were imbued with killing intent. Little Xie, you really are a girl who gives others a sense of security. And Lin couldn't help but continue to praise her. Shut up, little Xie said in a cold voice. This was the 100th time that Lin had complimented her. It was quite nice at first, but it was getting annoying after a while. And Lin immediately fell silent. He had already transformed into a salted fish, and if he didn't say anything, he would have no sense of existence at all. Wherever little Xie went, he would follow. When they encountered danger, little Xie would intervene, and he would stand by her side. How was he supposed to live if he didn't even have the chance to shout, 666? Little Xie's footsteps suddenly faltered as she continued onward. What's wrong, little Xie? And Lin asked. Little Xie's brows furrowed slightly as she pointed to an obvious gash on the ground, upon which remnants of sword intent could still be seen. I made that gash earlier, and Lin's heart jolted with shock. We've returned to where we came from. This is a labyrinth? He had heard of this type of scenario many times, but he still found it extremely inconceivable that it was actually happening to him. One had to realize that even though the path that they had just taken was winding and winding, it was still a path that led deeper into the labyrinth. How did they end up back where they came from? What do we do now? And Lin didn't know what to do. Little Xie looked behind her to find that the path behind them had become straight again. There were countless forks on the side, But the end of the path seemed to be the place where they had first entered the labyrinth. And Lin had also discovered this, and he became excited. I get it now. Could it be that the place where we came from is the place where we came from? Little Xie rolled her eyes. Master, your power has decreased, but has your intelligence also decreased? And Lin, little Xie held her evil slaying sword with one hand. The exit is the direction, and the end is at the end of the direction. I'm going to use my sword to open up a true path. You're going to destroy this spell formation? And Lin was extremely excited. What kind of ridiculous spell formation is this? It can't even stand up to a single sword strike from little Xie. Little Xie was a little speechless. What makes you think a spirit-nurturing stage cultivator like me can break through a spell formation maintained by a Dao integration stage cultivator with a single sword strike? A spell formation could be adjusted, and a little game created by a powerful being could be completed in all kinds of ways. But what makes you think you can destroy a powerful being's little game with a single sword strike? And Lin was speechless. However, little Xie took the initiative to hold onto Lin's hand. And Lin was extremely flattered by her soft and smooth touch. Wasn't this happiness a little too sudden? Was little Xie finally going to change and become his sweet little darling? Hold on to me tightly. Don't blame me if you get lost, little Xie suddenly said. Huh? And Lin faltered slightly upon hearing this. Only now did he realize that little Xie had taken the initiative to hold onto his hand, as she was worried that he would get lost. Little Xie closed her eyes, and she held her inky black, evil-slaying sword as she pointed her sword forward. Dazzling flower blossoms are blinding. Seeing as this is the case, I won't use my eyes. No matter how straight the path is it as straight as my sword? I'm going to open up a straight path with my sword. With that, a powerful sword light tore through the ground, extending all the way forward. And Lin's eyes widened, and he instantly understood what little Xie was thinking. She couldn't break through the spell formation by force, but she could use her sword to open up a path. She could disregard all external interference and use the straightest sword to open up a path, so there would be no twists and turns. Little Xie closed her eyes and continued forward along the path she had carved out with her sword. When she arrived at a place where there were no more cracks, she continued to open up a path with her sword. Forks? No way. Even if there were countless peach trees in her way, she would still hack them down in a straight line along the path that she had already determined in her heart. That's right, this was a straight path without any twists and turns. All types of traps appeared, including peach blossom monsters, but little Xie cut them all down with one sword strike. She broke through all the obstacles. Everything became clear. Before they knew it, the two of them had made their way out of the peach blossom forest. The air suddenly became extremely fresh, and there was extremely rich, vital energy wafting through the air, giving them a sense of comfort and comfort. Neither of them carefully inspected their surroundings. Instead, they stared intently at the trees before them. The 3 heavenly peach trees were right before their eyes. Chapter 1304. 3 heavenly peach trees swayed gently in the wind atop a slightly raised mound. All of the heavenly peaches swayed gently in the wind, and one couldn't help but want to pluck them all away. Oh, there's someone new here? A clear and faintly discernible voice suddenly sounded. And Lin turned around to discover a semi-transparent, milky white man sitting in mid-air, looking down at him. Its eyes were like blue flames, and its body was as illusionary as the wind. One could make out a humanoid silhouette, and there were leaves and grains of sand swaying in the wind within its body. This strange living being was the Dao integration stage, super mighty figure of the Hall of Creation, the Wind Walker. This is the first non-Dao integration stage, super mighty figure to arrive here, right? An extremely handsome man wielded a sword in his hands with a smile on his face. And Lin's heart jolted as he looked into the distance. The sect leader of the 10,000 Spirits Immortal Sect, Xinyuan Lin, was also standing here. Sect leader in Lin really is an extremely talented man. Not long ago, you were lying in a coffin, but now you've come here ahead of most of the other participants. Zhu Shuza also spoke, and there was a hint of approval and appreciation in his eyes as he looked at Lin. He naturally had to keep a close eye on his niece's Dao partner. It looked like he was very pleased with his Dao partner's performance in all aspects. And Xiaolin was a crippled but determined man. But he had managed to surpass all of the other super mighty figures through his relentless efforts to create the miracle of life. How could anyone not be moved and impressed by this? And Lin pays his respects to all of you, seniors. And Lin was given a fright by the commotion around him, and he quickly composed himself before extending a greeting. He had thought that he would be the first person to arrive at the 3 heavenly peach trees, but who would have thought that there would already be so many super mighty figures waiting for him? He looked carefully to discover that there seemed to be an extremely mundane rock golem nearby. The rock golem was looking up into the sky, and if it weren't for the 2 eyes on its head, he would have almost missed the fact that it was alive. And Lin had seen it during the Heavenly Peach Banquet. This was Emperor Bo Luan of the Stone Tribe. This meant that aside from him, there were 4 other Dao integration stage super mighty figures present. There's an extremely terrifying energy barrier around the 3 heavenly peach trees that even I can't break through, little Xie said with furrowed brows. And Lin suddenly came to a realization. It turned out that the 4 big shots were waiting outside because they could not enter. Then what do we do? And Lin asked. This energy is slowly receding like the receding tide. I think it will become so weak that I can break it with brute force, little Xie continued. And Lin glanced at the big shots around him and wondered if they were thinking the same thing. Hey, little friend and Lin, that little girl looks quite interesting. I've never seen her before. Is she a sword spirit? Zhu Shuza asked curiously. And Lin naturally had to be polite when his uncle's father-in-law asked him a question. This is my sword spirit, and her name is little Xie. She's quite powerful and can move freely, and Lin explained. As soon as he said that, the few big shots' expressions changed. This is not simple. This sword spirit is most likely very powerful. I feel like this little girl is becoming more and more adorable. Zhu Shuza maintained a friendly smile as he looked at Lin. Your sword spirit is very adorable. Can I hug her? And Lin shuddered upon hearing this, and he was just about to clamp a hand over little Xie's mouth. A cold smile appeared on little Xie's face. F*CK off. Her F*CK off reverberated throughout heaven and earth. And Lin, Zhu Shuza, he was a step too slow after all. This was a good opportunity to curry favor with his uncle's father-in-law. But little Xie had done something like this. And Lin was on the brink of tears, and he hurriedly offered an explanation to Zhu Shuza. Zhu Shuza was quite easygoing, and he was quite amused by the fact that little Xie hadn't scolded him like this in a long time. Little Xie was even more disdainful of this elegant middle-aged man upon hearing this, not long after that. Boom, boom, boom. The enchantment barrier around the 3 heavenly peach trees tremored slightly, and it became thinner and thinner. At this moment, all of the Dao integration stage super mighty figures came to their senses. The enchantment barrier was becoming weaker and weaker. Don't blame me for what I'm about to do next. A warm smile appeared on Xinyuan Luan's face. Mr. Lin, don't blame me for going too far. If you want to participate, then you'll have to be prepared to be severely wounded by me. A smile also appeared on Zhu Shuza's face, and there was absolute confidence in his eyes. Windwalker didn't say anything. Instead, he stared at the 3 heavenly peach trees with a proud expression. No one could compete with him in terms of speed and looting. Emperor Bolin also snapped out of his reverie and scanned his surroundings. Then, he turned his attention to the heavenly peach tree. All of the super mighty figures were on standby. A tender but domineering voice suddenly sounded. And Lin, let's get rid of these troublemakers first. Everyone instantly fell silent. All of the mighty figures turned toward the little girl in the black dress beside Lin with incredulity etched on their faces. What did she say? Ahem. She said she's going to get rid of us. Mr. Lin, your sword spirit seems to be a little, naive. Zhu Shuza couldn't think of a better way to describe little Xie, so he could only use naive. If you want to die, then come at me. Windwalker looked at little Xie with a cold expression. In his eyes, Lin and little Xie were nothing more than interesting beings who posed no threat to him. Lin was also getting a little nervous. Why are you picking a fight now? Aren't you going to wait for a while? Wait? They're not going to go easy on us anyway. Isn't it a good idea to get rid of them before they can compete with us for the heavenly peach trees? Little Xie asked, and Lin choked upon hearing this and was at a loss for words. All of the other super mighty figures were even more astonished. Why did it feel like Lin and little Xie's conversation was based on the premise that they could eliminate all of them? Had Lin and the sword spirit gone insane? Isn't your appetite a little too big? Be careful not to choke yourself to death. Zhu Shuze could not stop himself from laughing out. Little Xie held her evil slaying sword. Then I'll start with you. Let's go. Under normal circumstances, little Xie would immediately attack her enemies without any hesitation. However, Zhu Shuze was Lin's future relative, so she decided to give him some face. Zhu Shuze chuckled upon hearing this, and he crooked a finger at them. Come me together. I'll go easy on you. And Lin waved a hand with a smile. I'm not going up. He couldn't even beat anyone here. So how the F***CK was he supposed to fight? Hold on to little Xie tightly. Whoosh. Little Xie stomped her foot onto the ground, and the earth cracked open as her body transformed into a series of afterimages as she charged toward Zhu Shuze. Her evil-slaying sword was like an inky black bolt of lightning as it pierced toward Zhu Shuze's heart. So fast, Zhu Shuze's expression shifted drastically, and he snapped his fingers at the oncoming little Xie. Boom! A white holy vermilion flame exploded. The flames of extreme yang melted the ground within a radius of over 100 meters and cracked open the earth several hundred meters below. And Lin stumbled back in retreat and was almost knocked to the ground by the shockwaves. This kind of power could reduce a spirit-nurturing stage, super mighty figure to dust. A faint smile appeared on Zhu Shuze's face. Sorry about that, little girl. The holy fire, which was so hot that even the air distorted, was suddenly torn apart by a pitch-black blade. What? Zhu Shuze's expression shifted drastically, and he was just about to use a movement technique to evade. Little Xie's entire body was enshrouded in a black energy robe, which kept the holy flames at bay, and she charged toward Zhu Shuze like a bolt of lightning without any hesitation. Too fast. Zhu Shuze had no way of evading before the evil-slaying sword fell mercilessly. Whoosh! A black sword projection sliced through the air and sliced the scorching holy flames in half. A golden protective light burst forth amid the sound of flesh being torn apart. Little Xie exhaled as the holy flames were snuffed out, and the man fell to the ground. One down. Chapter 1305. Zhu Shuze was stunned. He had yet to recover from his shock after being beheaded. The other three Dao integration stage super mighty figures were also given a huge fright as they stared blankly at the scenes unfolding before their eyes. Zhu Shuze wasn't some nobody. He was a Dao integration stage super mighty figure, yet he had been insta-killed just like that. You? Zhu Shuze pointed at little Xie with shock etched on his face. You're trying to act cute. That's right. This speed and this sword might had clearly reached an extremely terrifying level. However, little Xie was still pretending to be an adorable little girl to make him lower his guard. How detestable. Little Xie pursed her lips. I've always been very adorable. Do I need to sell myself? Zhu Shuze, thus the sect leader of the Vermilion Bird sect, died on the spot. Little Xie turned around to look at the other three Dao integration stage super mighty figures. Without any communication, Windwalker, Emperor Bolin, and Xin Yuanlun all chose to attack at the same time, and their target was little Xie. After witnessing Zhu Shuze being insta-killed, they were not going to be arrogant enough to fight little Xie alone. The only way for them to secure victory was by attacking as a group. Piercing Spear. Emperor Bolun's body was extremely massive, but he was extremely fast, and he was like a massive cannonball crashing through the air. His arm began to elongate and twist before transforming into a sharp spear that pierced toward little Sia. Wind Walker flew into the air before spreading his hands open. Heavenly gravitational wind. A black wind descended from the sky like a waterfall crashing onto the earth. With little Sia at the center, the ground within a radius of 300 meters began to cave in and crack. Her body was struck by a crushing force that made her legs buckle slightly as her bones creaked and cracked. Xianyuan Luan didn't say anything. Instead, he moved along with his sword, making it difficult for him to detect his presence. His movements were graceful, but he was also approaching little Sia at an incredible speed. He was as graceful as the wind. And Lin felt like the future Xianyuan Chang would be like this as well. The three Dao integration stage, super mighty figures attacked at the same time. Little Sia had nowhere to retreat to. However, she had no intention of retreating. She took a step back in the face of Emperor Bo Luan's spear before thrusting her sword forward. Bam! The spear and the tip of the sword collided violently, and the energy exploded. Emperor Bo Luan's spear seemed to be imbued with some kind of will and the power of thought, and it was trying to force itself onto the evil-slaying sword. It was a will that could break through all things, and it was a power that could materialize the thoughts in one's heart. When Emperor Beluan was at his peak, he could even pierce through immortal-grade weapons. This time, it was naturally not trying to shatter the evil-slaying sword. Instead, it was trying to follow the path of the evil-slaying sword and impale little Sia, who was holding the evil-slaying sword. However, when that power came into contact with the evil-slaying sword, it was strangely nullified by a certain power. Emperor Bo Luan's expression changed, and he tried to retreat. Trying to escape, little Sia's body abruptly leaned forward, and her evil-slaying sword intent soared into the heavens. This was a paramount sword intent that wanted to reign above the 9 heavens. Break! The tip of the sword glowed with a black light, and with a cracking sound, Emperor Balin's spear arm felt a sharp pain of being torn apart. Emperor Bo Luan screamed in agony as he retreated several hundred meters away. Only half of his arm remained, and the other half had been pulverized by the evil-slaying sword. Little Sia didn't even have a chance to heave a sigh of relief before an ethereal voice sounded from behind her. "It's over." Xianyuan Luan had already appeared behind little Sia, and he flicked his wrist. Heaven and earth fell deathly silent as his antiquated sword swept through the air. It was as if all of the intents of all living beings had been injected into the sword. His sword strike was extremely fast, and little Sia's body was being suppressed by the Windwalker, so there was no way she could evade this sword strike. What was surprising to Xianyuan Luan was that little Sia didn't make any evasive or defensive movements. Instead, she continued to stab forward. Had she given up? A faint smile appeared on Xianyuan Luan's face. No matter how powerful an enemy was, they weren't invincible. Vanquish the heavens and slay all evil, annihilation. A light voice suddenly sounded. The inky black blade of the evil-slaying sword began to emit bursts of black light. In that instant, Xianyuan Luan was struck by an indescribable sense of impending death. He didn't know where it was coming from, nor did he know how to evade it. Bam! A flower of blood exploded at the location of his heart. Immediately thereafter, a golden barrier was activated. Xianyuan Luan stared blankly at his chest with confusion on his face. What's going on? What kind of ability is this? He really didn't know how he had been blasted apart. Uncanny, terrifying, powerful. This was the sword technique that little Sia had attained after progressing to the divine tool level, directional annihilation. Unfortunately, she wasn't at her peak right now, so she could only unleash directional annihilation. Xianyuan Luan clasped a hand over his gaping chest as he stared at the little girl, who hadn't turned around or made any unnecessary movements this entire time. In the next instant, Xianyuan Luan was teleported out. Emperor Bo Luan and Windwalker were no longer able to remain calm upon seeing this. This uncanny ability, this was F*King cheating. Little Sia didn't give them a chance to react, as she quickly flew toward Emperor Bo Luan. Wind Walker immediately followed Little Xie, while unleashing his heavenly gravitational winds to restrict Little Xie's movements. However, Little Xie was still astonishingly fast despite being restricted by the heavenly gravitational winds. As a Tao integration stage, super mighty figure, Emperor Bo Luan had his pride, and he wasn't going to run away in a situation like this. He also charged toward Little Xie, and his other arm transformed into an extremely sturdy rock shield with a layer of golden energy enshrouding it. Indestructible shield. The rock shield whistled through the air as it crashed down upon Little Xie's petite body like a mountain, sending gale force winds howling and the air twisting and warping in its wake. At the same time, a will of, I am the greatest, I am the strongest, and nothing can break through my shield began to appear. Even Little Xie, who was standing nearby, could clearly sense that peculiar power. Let me shatter your ridiculous fantasy. Little Xie chuckled coldly, and not only did she not slow down, she charged toward Emperor Bolin even more fearlessly as a divine light erupted from her divine sword. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A series of black sword projections tore through Emperor Boluan's shield while inflicting a dozen or so massive gashes on his body. At this moment, a golden protective light appeared. An expression of despair appeared on Emperor Boluan's face. This little girl was far too ferocious. Little Xie turned toward Wind Walker with an indifferent expression. I've been bombarded by you for so long. Now it's your turn. Wind Walker shuddered slightly before speaking in an ethereal voice. I am a natural-born elemental body. As long as I can manifest my insubstantial form, you won't be able to harm my body. So how are you going to defeat me? Is that so? A faint smile appeared on Little Xie's face as she extended a delicate hand toward Wind Walker, upon which a black vortex suddenly appeared over her palm. A terrifying suction force suddenly latched onto Wind Walker's body. Wind Walker's expression shifted drastically. Divine Wind Walker. He let loose a loud cry as his body transformed into a streak of blue wind, which broke free from the suction force and fled into the distance. Little Xie looked on at the direction that Wind Walker had fled in and didn't give chase. Instead, she surveyed her surroundings with a disdainful expression. She had defeated 4 Tao integration stage super mighty figures on her own, and she seemed to be saying, who else? Chapter 1306. Within the Heavenly Palace. The scenes of Little Xie defeating 4 Tao integration stage super mighty figures in a row created another massive stir. Countless powerful beings turned to look at the adorable little girl with astonishment etched on their faces. So the most adorable being is the most terrifying being in this heavenly peach battle. It's over. Our sect has 0 chance of securing the heavenly peaches now. Who among us can beat such a terrifying little girl? Sect leader Lin's sword spirit is so powerful. Can we report him? How about you talk to Ms. Zhu Shan first before asking that question? Forget about it. All of the mighty figures turned to look at Lin with envy and jealousy on their faces. Why was this Lin so handsome, rich, and powerful? And why did he have such a powerful sword spirit? How infuriating! To think that a sword spirit was able to unleash such power under such circumstances. Lu Mingxuan's brows furrowed with a perplexed expression. Zhu Shan's features were turning green. Lin and the others were like a pair of hands viciously tearing at her heart, and she was struck by a sense of pain and humiliation. However, all of the other Heavenly Sword sect disciples wore expressions of envy and yearning on their faces. They felt like they wouldn't have any regrets if they could have such a powerful sword spirit in their lives. All of the 4-9 Immortal Sect members were cheering for their sect leader. Big brother and is going to defy the natural order this time. I can eat heavenly peaches now, haha. Come, let's have a toast. Everyone began to celebrate in advance. Inside the universe of Tao comprehension, after a series of battles, Little Xie's face had become a little pale. Awesome, Little Xie, you're the best. And Lin immediately made his way over to her and rubbed her stomach and cheeks. Piss off. Little Xie flared up with rage, and Lin withdrew his hand with a sheepish expression. He didn't have the power to tease little Xie just yet. "How are you feeling? I feel like you're a little feeble," and Lin asked. Thankfully, I overexerted myself just then and unleashed a power that shouldn't have been unleashed at the spirit-nurturing stage, so I suffered some backlash, little Xie replied in a cold voice. And Lin's heart ached a little. "Come, let me touch you, little Xie. Piss off." The two of them arrived in front of the barrier of the 3 peach trees. And Lin's expression was solemn. "Do you think you can break it? Will there be any other side effects after forcefully breaking the barrier?" Little Xie poked the enchantment barrier before her with her sword. "Even if there's going to be a backlash, can't I just destroy the backlash energy as well?" And Lin was speechless. Little Xie gestured at the enchantment barrier before her with her sword, and she was just about to unleash a slash. A commotion suddenly came from the peach blossom forest behind them. Whoosh! Kacha kacha! Accompanied by the sound of peach blossom branches breaking and falling to the ground. A gigantic creature appeared not too far away. Its body was an extremely thick tree trunk, and the roots at the base of its trunk were like countless legs that were quickly crawling about. There was a pair of yellow eyes on its head, and above it was a lush green tree crown. This monster was Patriarch Shuntong of the Spring Divine Tree Realm. "Ha-ha! And Lin, piss off if you don't want your friends to suffer." Patriarch Shuntong chortled with glee as a large number of green vines danced through the air. Most importantly, Xin Yuan Cheng and Lu Qianhuan were bound by these vines. Patriarch Shuntong was planning to use these 2 hostages to exchange for the heavenly peaches from the 4-9 immortal sect, but he didn't think that the 3 heavenly peach trees would also be of great use to him. Lu Qianhuan opened her purple eyes with difficulty. "And Lin, don't worry about us. Get the heavenly peach trees first. We'll just be eliminated if worst comes to worst." Xin Yuan Cheng nodded with a pained expression. "Let's not waste any more time. All the powerful beings are going to arrive soon, and we have the upper hand. Are you sure you want to do this? I'm going to release a type of poison into their bodies, and they'll experience extreme pain. To put it more accurately, they'll wish they were dead. However, this poison won't do much damage to their lives, so it won't trigger the golden barrier." Patriarch Shun Tung chuckled. "You know what I'm saying, right?" And Lin was renowned for being protective of his own sect members. He didn't believe that Lin would do something like stand by and watch as a sect member was tortured. In reality, that was indeed the case. And Lin couldn't allow his friends to be tortured for the sake of heavenly peaches. "And Lin, don't worry about us. It's not like I've never been in pain before," Xin Yuan Cheng yelled. He didn't want to become a burden to Lin or the 4-9 immortal sect. "Get the heavenly peaches. A little pain is nothing. I want to eat heavenly peaches." Lu Qianhuan also yelled, and Lin didn't say anything. Instead, he silently stepped away from the enchantment barrier. Little Xie hesitated momentarily before following after him. "Don't attack my friends, or I'll make your life a living hell," and Lin warned with a solemn expression. "Ha-ha! Don't worry, I only want heavenly peaches." Patriarch Shuntong was elated as pink flowers bloomed on the branches of his tree. He had obtained the 3 heavenly peach trees so effortlessly. It looked like the Spring Divine Tree Realm was going to be the biggest winner of the heavenly peaches. All of the mighty figures in the heavenly palace were completely caught off guard by this turn of events. Before the first wave had even subsided, another wave had arisen, and all of the onlookers were extremely excited. I was wondering why Patriarch Shuntong didn't eliminate them right away after the battle. So this is what he's planning. The mighty figures sure have different ways of thinking. They even anticipated something like this. I'm quite surprised that Lin would actually compromise for his sect members. That's right. With the power of his sword spirit, he should be able to secure the heavenly peaches with ease. I'm just worried that Patriarch Shuntong will release his poison during the battle and torture those two. At the banquet table of the Heavenly Sword Sect, Zhu Shan was extremely elated upon seeing this. However, Lu Mingxian glared at her, and she could only repress the smile on her face. And Lin's decision to save Lu Qianhuan was also something that Lu Mingxian wanted to see, so Zhu Shan naturally couldn't appear overly elated. Patriarch Shun Tung hummed an unknown song as he slowly made his way toward the enchantment barrier. The green tree vines were still tightly bound around Xianyuan Cheng and Lu Qianhuan, and a poisonous spike was hovering around their necks. If Enlin were to make any sudden movements, the spike would plunge into their necks. Right at this moment, a voice drifted into Enlin's ears. Immediately afterward, another voice sounded. "Little Xie, I have a bold idea," Enlin transmitted his voice to her. Little Xie turned to Enlin with her clear eyes, indicating for him to continue. "Enlin, so on so. Little Xie's eyes lit up, and she nodded. Boom! An earth-shattering sound rang out. Patriarch Shun Tung let loose a loud roar, and one of the tree vines on his body sliced through the barrier in an extremely violent manner, like a green saber, tearing the barrier apart in an extremely violent manner. Just as Patriarch Shun Tung was tearing through the enchantment barrier. "Do it!" And Lin and Little Xie sprang into action. Chapter 1307. Patriarch Shun Tung immediately reacted as soon as Enlin and Little Xie sprang into action. Dime! Patriarch Shun Tung was shocked and enraged, and he was just about to plunge his poisonous spikes into Xianyuan Cheng and Lu Qianhuan's necks. Due to the fact that his attention had been diverted, the air behind him suddenly twisted, and an adorable fairy began to appear. She flicked a finger, and the two poisonous spikes were pulverized by a sudden burst of energy. It was also in that instant that a curved blue moonlight disk pierced through the void, causing ripples to appear in the space around it. There was actually a faint power to jump through space, and its speed was astonishing. Whoosh! The vines around Xianyuan Cheng and Lu Qianhuan were sliced apart by the moonlight disk's sharp blade. Xianyuan Cheng and Lu Qianhuan fell from the tree. Due to Patriarch Shun Tung's paralyzing poison, their bodies were completely limp, and they could only lie on the ground, unable to get up. Only now did Patriarch Shun Tung realize that Enlin and Little Xie had chosen to attack because there were other powerful beings lurking in the shadows. That's right, they were none other than Tina and Su Qianyun of the 4-9 Immortal Sect. He let loose an almighty roar, and the vines around his body shot forth like venomous vipers toward everyone. Su Qianyun immediately recalled her moonlight disk upon seeing this, thereby slicing through the vines. Tina also rushed over to Xianyuan Cheng and Su Qianyun's side with her Heart Lotus Ice Sword in hand. She unleashed one powerful sword projection after another, slicing through all of the oncoming vines. However, unbeknownst to her, there were a few inky black poisonous spikes hidden among the shattered vines, all of which were hurtling toward Xianyuan Cheng and Lu Qianhuan at an extremely fast speed. Crap! Tina's expression shifted, and her ice sword danced through the air like a crescent moon as frosty energy instantly proliferated outward for over 100 meters, freezing everything in its path. Most of the poisonous spikes were frozen solid. However, there was still one that managed to escape. A poisonous spike that was struggling within the frosty energy finally managed to break free before plunging viciously into Lu Qianhuan's neck. Tina was given a fright. At this moment, Little Xie had already reached Patriarch Shun Tung, and her evil-slaying sword flew through the air. "Ha ha! Your friend has already been poisoned by me. If you don't want her to suffer pain worse than death, then you have to listen to me." Streaks of terrifying sword radiance mercilessly landed on its body, causing all of its chlorophyll juice to splatter out. The treant was so frightened that it frantically retreated. "Do you want to die? You don't even care about your friend's pain? Only I can cure this poison," Patriarch Shun Tung shouted. It had never imagined that Enlin and the others would make a completely different choice from before. Sure enough, Lu Qianhuan's cries of agony could already be heard. Her face was turning green, and her fists were clenched tightly as if she was in extreme pain. A cruel smile appeared on Patriarch Shun Tung's face upon seeing this. "See, if you don't stop now..." Before he even had a chance to finish his sentence, Little Xie had already appeared before Patriarch Shun Tung again, and a terrifying black sword projection pierced through heaven and earth as heaven and earth abruptly dimmed. Die! Little Xie slashed her sword through the air. Patriarch Shun Tung's body was torn apart by the sword projection. Sword intent wreaked havoc as a massive gash was sliced into the tree trunk. Finally, a golden protective light appeared. You've all gone insane. You have no idea how much pain that woman is in. Patriarch Shun Tung stared at everyone with shock and rage on his face. Little Xie ignored him and made her way directly toward Lu Qianhuan. Little sister Xie, what do we do now? My healing techniques are useless against her. Tina's face was filled with shock and horror, and she unleashed healing techniques with all her might. But Lu Qianhuan was still howling with agony. Just kill her, Little Xie said in an indifferent voice. Xianyuan Cheng and Tina were both dumbstruck upon hearing this. However, Lu Qianhuan, who was still howling with agony, finally understood what she was getting at. I get it now. You want to eliminate me so that you can activate the protective golden light? That's a good idea. Hurry up and kill me. Lu Qianhuan was in unbearable pain, and her body was curled up into a ball as her breathing accelerated and sweat poured down her face. Xianyuan Cheng and Tina came to a sudden realization. So that's how it is. The golden light has the ability to isolate damage, so it can naturally isolate pain as well. There are many mighty figures outside, so how can they not be able to neutralize the poison unleashed by a 10th stage Dao body cultivator? At this moment, Little Xie had already stabbed her sword into Lu Qianhuan's arm. You! Why are you stabbing me here? Lu Qianhuan yelled. That's a little ridiculous. Su Qianyin covered her mouth with a hand as she ran over. Xianyuan Cheng was also shocked. How was that supposed to activate the golden light? Stab the heart. Outside the heavenly palace, Lu Mingxian stared at the image before him with a dark expression. All of the other Heavenly Sword sect disciples didn't dare to say anything as they stared at the live stream with nervous expressions. Lu Qianhuan wailed with anguish, and it was as if they could sense the pain she was enduring through the screen. Why wasn't Lin's sword spirit still stabbing her arm, even though she was in so much pain? What was the meaning of this? If they couldn't come up with a reasonable explanation, their sect leader would probably go berserk. Lu Qianhuan was also on the verge of tears, and Lin's sword spirit was still stabbing her even though she was in such a pitiful state. This was even more despairing than kicking her when she was down. However, right at this moment, the evil-slaying sword suddenly turned white. It was a kind of white that was as clear as ice and as clean as jade, untainted by a single speck of dust. The sword became pure and flawless, as if it were the most holy and beautiful object in this world. Anyone who saw it would be dazzled and ashamed, and they wouldn't dare to stain it. Lu Qianhuan was completely dumbstruck, and she completely forgot about her pain. Little Xie pulled out the sword from Lu Qianhuan's arm, and the evil-slaying sword turned from pure white to pure black again. It's done. It's done? Lu Qianhuan finally came to her senses, and she stretched with elation. I've really done it. It's so miraculous. Lu Qianhuan screamed as she leaped up and hugged the little girl tightly in her arms. Thank you, Little Xie. You really are my savior. Let go. Little Xie was struggling. Lu Qianhuan was not going to let go. She had been lusting after Little Xie for a long time, and she finally had a chance to hug her. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and she definitely couldn't miss it. A warm and soft body, a faint, peculiar bodily scent. It felt so good. For some reason, all of the mighty figures in the heavenly palace were a little envious of Lu Qianhuan. A faint smile appeared on Lu Mingxuan's face as he looked on at the scenes unfolding before his eyes. All of the 4-9 immortal sect cultivators heaved sighs of relief upon seeing this. Little Xie sure is impressive. To think that she can even cure Patriarch Shun Tung's poison. Didn't Patriarch Shun Tung say that no one could cure this poison aside from him? The slap in the face came too fast, like a tornado, within the heavenly palace's healing formation. Patriarch Shun Tung fell into a state of deep self-doubt as he looked on at the scenes unfolding before him. How could this be? How could this be? This can't be within the Tao observation space. Little Xie, you're the best. Little Xie had just escaped from Lu Qianhuan, but she had fallen into the clutches of Enlin again. Little Xie had cured Lu Qianhuan's poison using the second technique of her vanquish the heavens and slay all evil technique, purification. A single sword strike could purify all of the negative effects of the target living being. Let's go and uproot the heavenly peach tree now. Enlin turned toward the heavenly peach tree within the enchantment barrier. Everyone immediately broke through the weakened enchantment barrier before uprooting the heavenly peach tree and stowing it into their storage rings. Chapter 1308. Just as Enlin was about to place the heavenly peach tree into his storage ring, a loud and clear voice sounded in the sky above. All of the heavenly peaches on the 9 heavenly peach trees have been taken. All of the competitors will be teleported out. This voice erupted throughout the entire world. A hint of disappointment appeared on Lan Xiaoni's face upon hearing this voice. What a pity. I wanted to take one of the heavenly peach trees. At a certain place in the peach blossom forest, holy fire and lightning roared, and golden Buddhist chants rang out. The energy from the collision tore the ground and the surrounding peach trees into pieces, completely unafraid of the hidden dangers inside. A woman and a benevolent bodhisattva separated at the same time. Su Xiaolan held her dragon sparrow sword and looked up into the sky with a hint of surprise on her face. It's over already? Ba, benefactor, there's no point in us continuing to battle. Let's stop here. A bodhisattva with a Buddhist light representing wisdom emanating from his body spoke in a slow voice. He was the Tao integration stage, super mighty figure of the Buddhist kingdom, the great strength bodhisattva. Soon, a golden protective light enshrouded everyone in the small world. Little Xie also leaped into Enlin's evil slaying sword. Spatial power swept forth, and everyone arrived at the heavenly palace in the blink of an eye. The king has returned. Congratulations, sect leader Enlin. The 4-9 immortal sect is bad *SS. There are so many heavenly peaches here. Should Chef God Enlin cook a few heavenly peach specialty dishes? All of the representatives made their way over to offer their blessings. The 4-9 immortal sect's heavenly peach hunt was simply too dazzling. It could be said that they were the most closely watched power here, and countless mighty figures went to offer their congratulations. There were even mighty figures who offered to hug little Xie's sword spirit, to which Enlin immediately turned them down. Little Xie wasn't someone who could be hugged by just anyone. Xiaolan was still a little confused, but she was ecstatic to learn that the 4-9 immortal sect team had secured the final 3 heavenly peach trees. She latched onto Enlin's arm with a tender voice. Enlin, why are you so awesome? I want to eat 3 heavenly peaches. No way. Enlin immediately refused. Before Su Xiaolan could react, Enlin said, How can 3 be enough? We have to get 30. The surrounding mighty figures trembled when they heard this. What a domineering president. Some of the fairies of the celestial court even had peach blossoms on their faces, and looks of yearning appeared in their eyes. If only their Tao companions were as domineering as Enlin. Lan Xiaoni turned to Enlin with a smile. So Big Boss Enlin obtained the remaining 3 heavenly peach trees. I have no objections then. The mermaid princess gloominess was swept away at this moment. After returning to the 4-9 immortal sect, all of the spectating contestants gathered around them and cheered excitedly. The celestial arch stood on the main seat of the banquet with a buoyant smile. The 4-9 immortal sect is the biggest winner of this heavenly peach competition. Please welcome sect leader Enlin to say a few words. The 4-9 immortal sect had secured 5 heavenly peach trees. The Hall of Creation had secured 1 heavenly peach tree. The 10,000 Spirits Immortal Sect had secured 1 heavenly peach tree. The Spring Divine Tree Realm had secured 1 heavenly peach tree, and the Wild Phantom Tribe had secured 1 heavenly peach tree. The 4-9 Immortal sect was undoubtedly the biggest winner of this heavenly peach competition. And Lin was a little dazed upon hearing the celestial Thearcha's words. He had never heard of such a thing happening before. However, he did not have stage fright. He stood up and cleared his throat. Our 4-9 Immortal sect is a sect that prioritizes harmony and development. Of all the heavenly peaches in the world, I only want half of them. Everyone fell deathly silent upon hearing this. The 5 emperors of the celestial court were astonished. All of the representatives were astonished, and all of the members of the 4-9 Immortal sect were astonished. This Lin sure had a lot of guts. What the F***CK was he talking about? He was asking the 4-9 Immortal sect to share the entire world with the other 99 first-rate powers on the Taichu continent. Arrogance. Lawless arrogance. But for some reason, apart from being shocked, there were very few people who were disgusted. Most of them looked at the man in white with envy or admiration. Arrogance without strength was called not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth, arrogant and conceited. However, the arrogance of those with strength was called soaring ambition, showing off one's ability and unparalleled arrogance. And Lin's 4-9 Immortal sect had secured over half of the heavenly peaches in the heavenly peach competition, so he did indeed have the right to make such a statement. Because if one looked deeper, what he said was actually the truth. Many of the young prodigies were already cheering in unison. They now had one more role model, that peerlessly arrogant man. If they could say the same thing in the heavenly palace one day, how invigorating would that be? All of the mighty figures applauded as raucous cheers erupted throughout the entire venue. And Lin bowed to all of the mighty figures with a smile before sitting down. He was having a great time flexing. Lu Mingxian looked at the dazzling man with a complex expression on his face. Why did he suddenly become so dazzling in the blink of an eye? Zhu Shan's expression was extremely haggard, and all-mouthy king didn't know what to say. What else could she say to someone who had taken 5 heavenly peach trees? She couldn't just say that he was trash and that 4 of her heavenly peach trees had been taken by someone else. If she said that, what would that make her husband of the heavenly sword sect look like? Lin Jun couldn't help but burst into laughter as she looked at the refreshed Lin. You're really something, Lin. You're flexing to the heavens. And Lin sat down before deciding on how to split the heavenly peaches. Aside from the 30 heavenly peaches that we gave to Hongdo, we have a total of 470 heavenly peaches. And Lin's eyes lit up. As soon as he said that, everyone's breathing quickened a little. They only had 3 heavenly peaches to eat at the banquet. But now, there were 470 heavenly peaches in front of them. Those 5 heavenly peach trees are actually quite a bountiful harvest. Bai Ling smiled and said, Heavenly peach trees are a special product of the celestial court and can only grow in a special heavenly peach garden. However, that doesn't mean that I can't use technology to replicate the environment of the celestial court and grow heavenly peaches that are just as good. Everyone became even more excited upon hearing this. Doesn't this mean that we don't have to go to the celestial court to eat heavenly peaches? Woof. Dabai barked with excitement as drool dripped from his mouth. All right, that's not something that can be done in a day, so I'll leave it to Big Sister Bai. And Lin clapped his hands with anticipation in his eyes. Let's discuss how to split the heavenly peaches first. What do you think? Everyone nodded in agreement. A smile appeared on Lin's face as he puffed out his chest. Then who do you think contributed the most to this heavenly peach hunt? Everyone replied in unison. It was little Xie. And Lin. Chapter 1309. And Lin was dumbstruck for a full 3 seconds upon hearing this. He was waiting for everyone to praise him. But they were talking about little Xie? No. Why is it little Xie? Shouldn't I be the one who contributed the most? I'm little Xie's master. And Lin argued. Little Xie is little Xie, and you are you. Little Xie has successfully nurtured spirit, so she's an independent life form now. Lu Qianhuan grinned. Little Xie was so easy to hug, so she had to earn some more points so that she could hug her again. Everyone nodded in unison, clearly in agreement with Lu Qianhuan's point of view. Even if you contributed a little, You're only responsible for half of the heavenly peach trees at most, while little Xie is responsible for 2.5. So little Xie is still the one who contributed the most, Su Xiaolan chimed in. This was already a very fair statement, so Enlin could only accept this cruel reality. How many heavenly peaches should little Xie receive? He rubbed his forehead and asked. At least a few dozen. Over 100. Even 200 isn't too much. All of the sect members chimed in. Enlin made a compromise. Then 100 heavenly peaches it is. Immediately afterward, the heavenly peaches were distributed according to their contributions. Enlin received 60 heavenly peaches. Su Xiaolan, Su Qianyun, Xianyuan Sheng, and Lu Qianhuan received 20 heavenly peaches each. Tina received 10, and Dabai and Xiao Chou received 5 heavenly peaches each. As for the other 12 cheerleaders, they received 3 heavenly peaches each. This scene caused the eyes of the surrounding mighty ones to turn red. Even the members who didn't participate received 3 additional heavenly peaches. One had to realize that the standard for participating in the Heavenly Peach Banquet was to receive 3 heavenly peaches each. After joining the 4-9 Immortal sect, they received double the happiness. Aside from that, Enlin also gave the 10,000 Spirits Immortal sect 5 heavenly peaches, the Vermilion Bird sect 5 heavenly peaches, the Mythological Beast sect 5 heavenly peaches, the West Sea Alliance 10 heavenly peaches, and the Heavenly Sword sect rolled its eyes. These heavenly peaches were to thank them for standing up for the 4-9 Immortal sect during the battle between the 4-9 Immortal sect and the Heavenly Sword sect. As such, he was giving them these heavenly peaches. Their attitude was quite clear. If they sided with the 4-9 Immortal sect, they would have meat to eat. Since they were all on the same side, and Lin didn't feel the pinch when he gave it to them. As for the remaining 145 peaches of immortality, they would be included in the sect's resources to reward the members who had made great contributions to the sect. After distributing the resources, Enlin felt very relaxed, and he said, Little Xie is still young. How about this? I'll take care of the heavenly peaches for her for now. Tina blinked as she propped her chin up with her index finger. Why does that sound so familiar? Everyone, right at this moment, the evil-slaying sword tremored. A little girl in a black dress appeared before Enlin, and she stared intently at Enlin as she extended a chubby little hand. What's wrong, little Xie? Hurry up and go back. A lot of people are staring at your face. Enlin warned in a low voice upon seeing this. Stop playing dumb. Give me the heavenly peaches, little Xie said in a cold voice. Enlin, you're so small. How are you going to be able to carry so many heavenly peaches? Little Xie patted the blade of the evil-slaying sword. There's a storage space here. Enlin was shocked. How come I don't know about this? This is exclusive to me. Do you think just anyone can open it? Little Xie chuckled coldly. She picked up a precious fruit from the table and tossed it into the evil-slaying sword as she spoke. Sure enough, the fruit disappeared after a burst of spatial fluctuations. Enlin stared at the scenes unfolding before his eyes with a dumbstruck expression. He felt like he had been abandoned by the evil-slaying sword. He was the master here. How come he didn't know that the evil-slaying sword could store items? Enlin had no choice but to obediently carry out the heavenly peaches and place them into little Xie's evil-slaying sword. Little Xie sat down on a chair at the banquet table and nibbled on a heavenly peach with elation. Her eyes narrowed into slits as she enjoyed the rich and refreshing energy of the spirit fruit. This fruit is quite delicious. Lu Qianhuan was tempted as she held a heavenly peach in her hand. Little Xie, big sister has more heavenly peaches here. I'll give them to you if you promise to let me hug you. How about that? Ha, idiot. I still have 99 more. Piss off. Little Xie immediately refused Lu Qianhuan's offer. Big sister, if little Xie doesn't want to make a deal, then I, little Tian, will. As long as you give me heavenly peaches, I'll let you hug me until the end of time. Shui Zhantian flapped his little wings as he looked up at Lu Qianhuan with his adorable eyes. His position as the most adorable being in the 4-9 Immortal sect had already been threatened, and Shui Zhantian was still feeling a sense of crisis. You? Lu Qianhuan shot a glance at Shui Zhantian before picking up a grape from the table. This is the price you'll get for one hug. Boom! Shui Zhantian felt as if he had been struck by a bolt of lightning in that instant, and he instantly lost all of his energy as he sprawled onto the table in a lifeless manner. You fickle people used to like me very much. You used to like hugging me very much. Woo. Shui Zhantian finally realized that he had fallen out of favor, and he immediately burst into tears. However, no one paid him any heed. The Celestial Arch stood up with a smile on his face. The battle for the Heavenly Peaches draws to a close. All of the major powers once again engaged in friendly exchanges during this event, thereby promoting harmony and unity among all of the major sects and strengthening the bonds between all of the members of the major sects. And Lin looked at the bruised and battered contestants, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. Is this battle for the Heavenly Peaches supposed to promote harmony and unity? Why do I feel like they're about to get into a fight? At this moment, a voice as clear as a flowing spring sounded from behind him. Do you really think the Celestial Court held the Heavenly Peach Banquet just to unite all of the major sects? And Lin turned to discover a beautiful woman in a plain Taoist robe standing behind him. Piggy Bank, is there another reason for holding the Heavenly Peach Banquet? And Lin asked with a shocked expression. The woman's expression darkened upon hearing this. Call me Celestial Maiden Tianyu. Celestial Maiden Tianyu. And Lin obediently corrected himself. The Celestial Court is holding the Heavenly Peach Banquet to expand the Celestial Court's influence across the entire continent and strengthen the Celestial Court, as well as the Kingdom of the Nine States. Lin Junjun explained with a buoyant smile. Think about it. If the four great sects of the Kingdom of the Nine States become too united and become too powerful, it would be detrimental to the rule of the Celestial Court. Lin Junjun's words enlightened and Lin and the others. Is it really okay for you to tell us something like this? And Lin was a little impressed by Lin Junjun's bravery. What are you afraid of? You're not an outsider. Besides, the old monsters of the Kingdom of the Nine States are well aware of what I'm thinking. I'll do my own thing, and they'll do theirs. It's fine. Lin Junjun splayed her hands open with a smile. And Lin stroked his chin and nodded. All right, I get it. Then why did you come here? You didn't come here just to tell me this, did you? No, I came here to make a deal with you. Lin Junjun replied with a mysterious expression. What deal? And Lin asked with a cautious expression. No flesh deal. Lin Junjun's chest constricted. Who the F***CK wants to do that with you? Dream on. Then what kind of deal? And Lin asked. I have some extremely important insider information regarding the competition. One piece of insider information in exchange for 2 chef god dishes. How about that? Lin Junjun offered in a hushed voice. And Lin. Chapter 1310. And Lin was given a fright by this piggy bank account girl's words. What the F***CK was this? How could they sell something like this? How could he cook for Lin Junjun just for some insider information about an event? Doing something like this would be a stain on his cooking skills and a blasphemy to his character. Lin Junjun transmitted her voice to Lin upon seeing his expression. I can give you insider information regarding immortal rank heavenly peaches that ripen once every 1,000 years. All right, please tell me what that insider information is, and Lin replied. Lin Junjun gestured with her 2 slender fingers. 2 chef god dishes. And Lin, deal. Lin Junjun transmitted her voice to Lin in a quiet voice. The next round of the competition is known as the discernment competition. All of you will be teleported into an orchard, and your cultivation bases will be restricted to the 10th stage Tao body. You will have to search through thousands of fruit trees and tens of thousands of fruits to find only 10 immortal rank heavenly peaches. The heavenly peaches will transform into all types of fruits, and even their appearances and auras will change. But each of you can only take 1 fruit. And Lin's expression shifted. Their appearances and auras are the same? Isn't this like a lucky draw? If that's the case, then the name of the competition wouldn't be discernment competition anymore. Even though the immortal rank heavenly peaches can transform into all types of fruits, they're still different from normal fruits, and that will be reflected in the details. And Lynn nodded. Get to the point. The point is that everyone will be entering this time. My father is selective in which fruits he transforms the heavenly peaches into. I'm sure that he'll enter the heavenly peaches based on the colors of my sisters and I. Do you understand what I'm saying? Lin Junjun explained. And Lin's eyes lit up with excitement. You're saying red, orange, yellow, green, azure, blue, and purple? The immortal rank heavenly peaches are among those colors? Lin Junjun nodded. That's right, and I'm the one he loves and dotes on the most, and Lin nodded. The most important of the important fruits is in the purple. A gratified smile appeared on Lin Junjun's face. Smart. And Lin couldn't help but turn to the celestial Arch, who was about to announce the rules. He probably didn't know that his daughter, his most beloved daughter, was carrying out a dirty deal with someone else, right? To be honest, I still don't think it's worth 2 meals. And Lin said with difficulty. Lin Junjun glared at Lin and pursed her lips. What? You want to go back on your word now that you've obtained insider information? That's 10 immortal fruits we're talking about. You've narrowed down the search area by so much. What else do you want? If we get 1 or 2, won't we be able to recoup our losses? It's exactly because I'm certain that I can get 10. That's why I don't want to trade. And Lin was speechless. What did you say? Lin Junjun's eyes widened. 10? Are you dreaming? And Lin couldn't be bothered to explain. How could he not be an expert just by looking at the disguised immortal peaches? Did they really think his divine inspection technique was useless? However, by narrowing down the search area, they could save a lot of effort. And Lin reluctantly reached a deal with Lin Junjun. On the throne, the Celestial Arch announced the second event with a buoyant smile. The second event is the third highlight of the Heavenly Peach Banquet, and it's also the most interesting one. It's called the Eye of Discernment event. Immediately afterward, the Celestial Arch began to explain the rules of the event. All of the mighty figures' eyes lit up with excitement upon hearing that there were tens of thousands of precious fruits, thousands of spirit fruits, and 10 immortal rank heavenly peaches waiting for them to pick. To think that the Celestial Court had such treasures. However, all of them were slightly disappointed when they heard that each participant could only take 1 immortal fruit. Picking the immortal fruit was equivalent to picking the immortal fruit. If it was purely based on luck, then the probability of that happening was far too low. Spatial fluctuations swept forth, and all of the living beings were teleported to a place that resembled an immortal paradise. The scenery was extremely picturesque, and there were even rare spirit beasts roaming about. Before Lin and the others was a massive orchard. What was quite peculiar was that each and every tree was actually a different species. In other words, there were over 1,000 different types of fruits here. Wow, what a beautiful place. Tina was very close to nature, so she had a natural fondness for this type of orchard. So this is the Celestial Court's myriad orchard? It really is a beautiful place. Xiao Tu was also quite surprised, and he couldn't help but praise. Not taking into account anything else, just the density of vital energy and the concentration of spiritual energy here was something that normal immortal paradises couldn't compare with. Not long after that, all of the 2,000 representatives began to move. Those of you with poor eyesight or those who can't be bothered to look, I want 9 people. Come with me, and Lin instructed. His goal was to take all 10 immortal rank heavenly peaches. Su Qianyan made her way over. Tang Shimin, Xiao Hong, and Little Gu also made their way over. Yi Ling, Little Lang, Bryce, Xiao Zhe, and Little Tian also made their way over. There were exactly 9 of them. The remaining 10 all had their own specialties and were extremely confident in themselves. And Lin had already relayed the information provided by Lin Junjun to them, so they could narrow down the search area. The rest was up to them. Being able to identify the immortal peaches was very important, but time was also very important. If you had the ability to identify the immortal peaches, but there were so many immortal peaches, there was nothing you could do if you were too slow. And Lin didn't know what everyone else's abilities were like, but his abilities were most likely quite fast. He immediately made his way over to a tree, and a light flashed through his eyes. Crimson blood fruit. a fruit formed from the condensed power of heaven and earth. Consumption of this fruit is extremely beneficial to cultivators when cultivating fire-type spell techniques. Its quality is close to that of a spirit fruit. There were over 60 fruits on this tree, and Lin had to look through them one by one in case the immortal rank heavenly peaches were hidden among the crimson blood fruits. 10 seconds later, there's none here. Let's go to the next tree. And Lin instructed. Su Qinyun and the others were quite perplexed, but they still followed along. Master is so awesome. You knew that there weren't any peaches hiding under that tree so quickly. Yiling clapped her little hands together in praise. Yeah, you're getting better and better at flattery. And Lin couldn't help but pinch Yiling's cheek with a gratified expression. In another direction in the myriad fruit orchard, the projection of a yin-yang symbol appeared in Xianyuan Luan's eyes, and he quickly made his way over to a tree. He seemed to be looking at the tree, but at the same time, he didn't seem to be looking at the tree. The tree before him swayed its branches and leaves, as if it were waving at him. Lu Changle, take that fruit, Xianyuan Luan suddenly instructed. One of the people behind him stepped forward with an excited expression. Is that an immortal peach? No, it's a spirit fruit. You won't be able to find an immortal fruit so quickly. A warm smile appeared on Xianyuan Luan's face. Be content. Take this spirit fruit and eat it yourself. Lu Changle was extremely grateful. Thank you, sect leader. He didn't doubt his sect leader's judgment at all, and he immediately extended a grateful bow. In the air above the myriad fruit orchard, the 5 emperors were recording data at an extremely fast pace. The first prince of the coiling dragon imperial family has mastered his golden eye divine technique. Xianyuan Luan's Tao of myriad spirit Tai Chi can already communicate with all things in nature, and his true intent has improved from 100 years ago. And Lin's ability is a little strange, the 5 emperors discussed among themselves as they recorded data. The Celestial Court didn't want to make deals that were disadvantageous to them. The Heavenly Peach contest was meant to make all of the major powers more harmonious. Then the All-Seeing Eye event was meant to analyze the powers of all of the major powers. Chapter 13:11. Lin unleashed his divine inspection technique to quickly identify the fruits in the myriad fruit orchard. There were over 1,000 fruit trees, and there were 500 of them excluding red, orange, yellow, green, azure, blue, and purple. At the rate of 10 seconds per fruit, it would take around 83 minutes, which was less than 2 hours, so it wasn't a very long time. This was because the time limit for this event was 2 hours. The only thing that he was worried about was that someone would beat him to it before he discovered the immortal peaches. However, it shouldn't be that bad. If it was a random selection, then the probability was extremely low. If he had to carefully identify the immortal peaches, then it would be extremely time-consuming. One had to realize that his divine inspection technique was like an automatic scanner, so it was already super fast. He didn't think there was anyone better than him in this regard. And Lin pondered this as he unleashed his divine inspection technique over and over again. Congratulations to Black Spirit Snake of the Snake Spirit Clan for obtaining 1 immortal rank heavenly peach. The celestial Thearcha's voice fell from the sky, sending shockwaves rippling through the myriad fruit orchard. Countless powerful beings and mighty figures turned toward a certain direction with envy on their faces. Black Spirit Snake stood on the spot with a shimmering yellow pineapple in her hand. She tossed it from side to side with a satisfied smile on her face, and peculiar black symbols flashed in her eyes. She was quite elated, but she didn't forget to throw a provocative glance at Lin. And Lin took a deep breath and turned his attention away from Black Spirit Snake as he continued to search for heavenly peaches. He had underestimated these mighty figures. Which one of them could integrate into the Tao integration stage was a pushover. Which one of them didn't possess unimaginable spell techniques. He couldn't just take all of them. He had to find the immortal rank heavenly peaches in the shortest time. And Lin quickly composed himself before continuing to identify the heavenly peaches. There were 10 immortal rank heavenly peaches of 7 different colors, which consisted of red, orange, yellow, green, azure, blue, and purple. The Celestial Arch had a preference for the piggy bank girl, so there had to be 3 or 4 immortal rank heavenly peaches among the purple fruits, and Lynn quickly traversed through the heavenly peach orchard, only looking for purple fruits to identify. Big jade grape, purple flame fruit, agarwood fruit, wind phoenix purple fruit. He continued to use his divine inspection technique to appraise the wild purple fruits, and a piece of information suddenly appeared in his mind. 1,000-year flat peach. Grown in the Celestial Court's flat peach garden, it gathers the aura of heaven and earth, the essence of the sun and moon, and is watered by the Jade Lake celestial water for 1,000 years before bearing fruit. And Lin was instantly excited. Hurry, Xiao Hong, pluck that heavenly peach for me. Oh. Little Red was originally happily swaying its body on Lin's shoulder, but after hearing what Lin said, it immediately jumped towards the wild purple veined fruit pointed at by Lin, and suddenly plucked it with its little hand made of green leaves. The sky above trembled, and the celestial Thearcha's voice sounded. Congratulations to Xiao Hong of the 4-9 Immortal Sect for obtaining an immortal rank heavenly peach. Cries of surprise could be heard from the crowd. The representatives of the major forces looked at the little red flower enviously. The 4-9 Immortal Sect has also obtained an immortal rank heavenly peach. They're already the winner of this event. There are so many people following sect leader Enlin. Could it be that Enlin was the one who discovered the immortal peach? Generally speaking, a powerful being will be followed by a group of people who will pluck the fruits for the powerful being. After all, the powerful being can only pluck the fruit once, but the powerful being's appraisal techniques can help other members obtain better fruits. I'm so envious of the 4-9 Immortal Sect members. Their sect leader is so powerful. Many people were filled with envy and admiration, and some of them sped up their appraisal process in fear that someone else would steal their immortal peaches. Many living beings had already plucked the fruits, but they were all disappointed to hear nothing from the Celestial Arch. Zhu Shan plucked a spirit fruit under Lu Mingxuan's guidance, and an indescribable sense of disappointment welled up in her heart as she looked at the elated Xiao Hong. Not long after that, congratulations to Yi Ling of the 4-9 Immortal Sect for obtaining an immortal rank heavenly peach. The celestial Thearcha's voice reverberated throughout the myriad fruit orchard again. All of the representatives were astonished, and even many of the Dao integration stage super mighty figures' expression shifted. The 4-9 Immortal Sect again. It was the 4-9 Immortal Sect again. Zhu Shan looked at the adorable little girl, who she had once viewed as an ant that could be easily destroyed, but now she was holding an immortal rank heavenly peach and leaning obediently against Enlin's side. She felt as if a sword had been stabbed into her heart, and she was extremely embarrassed. For some reason, the spirit fruit in her hand also became a little scorching hot. This scene made her feel as if she was doing worse than that little girl. All of the representatives adjusted their emotions and continued to search for the heavenly peaches. Congratulations to Su Qianyun of the 4-9 Immortal Sect for obtaining an immortal rank heavenly peach. The celestial Thearcha's voice sounded about 10 minutes later. Many of the mighty figures were on the verge of exploding. Holy F***CK. Why is it the 4-9 Immortal Sect again? It's sect leader Enlin again. Isn't Lin using hacks? What the F***CK? This is already the 3rd immortal rank heavenly peach. Holy F***CK. Many of the representatives felt as if they had been dealt a heavy blow. Why was the 4-9 Immortal Sect so bad *SS? Su Qianyun was holding a purple fruit that was about the size of a palm, as she lowered her head shyly as a blush appeared on her flawless cheeks. Su Xin of the Greenwood Imperial family sighed with emotion at the sight of Su Qianyun's reaction. Look, big brother, isn't little sister blessed by Enlin? That's why I made the right choice. Su Gu's expression darkened. What can one heavenly peach prove? Chong, he even gave little sister a high-rank immortal tool, the Moonlight Disc, just as the two of them were discussing their little sister's blessings. In the sky above, Lin Junjun pursed her lips tightly as she cursed in her heart. You be *starred. Don't be so arrogant. Even if you want to do something bad, you have to do it in secret to distract everyone's attention. Sure enough, the celestial arch was already quite confused. What is this ability of Enlin's to make his eyes turn white? How can he appraise fruits so quickly? The celestial arch was perplexed. Emperor Ziwei also shook his head. I don't know either. There are no spell technique fluctuations either. It should be a very special type of innate divine ability, perhaps similar to true Lord Erlang's heavenly... The celestial arch nodded before stroking his chin in deep thought. Why doesn't Lin keep appraising purple fruits? Does he know something about them? Lin Junjun's heart jolted upon hearing this, and she immediately repressed her emotions before looking on expressionlessly as everyone appraised the fruits with an intrigued expression. Congratulations to 4-9 Immortal Sect Xiao Zhe for obtaining 1 Immortal Rank Heavenly Peach. The Celestial Arch continued to broadcast an announcement to the Myriad Fruit Orchard. All of the representatives in the Myriad Fruit Orchard erupted into a frenzy as they turned toward Enlin. Xiao Zhe was holding a purple watermelon-sized fruit in his hands with an elated smile on his face. They were all dumbstruck, for consecutive attacks from the 4-9 Immortal Sect had left their minds in complete disarray. This 4-9 Immortal Sect was way too freakish. That's the 4th one, and all of them are purple fruits. The Celestial Arch fell into deep thought as he looked at Enlin. He then turned toward Lin Junjun. Chapter 13:12. Lin Junjun was enjoying the appraisal of the other contestants. At this moment, the Celestial Arch suddenly turned toward her. She was getting a little flustered. Had she given herself away? That shouldn't be the case. She couldn't pinpoint which fruit was the Immortal Peach. Even if the Celestial Arch suspected something, what could he possibly suspect? Little Z, you seem to have something on your mind, the Celestial Arch suddenly said. Lin Junjun shuddered, and she immediately shook her head. No, I don't have anything on my mind. I'm just thinking about some cultivation issues. The Celestial Arch turned toward the Celestial Maiden in a plain Taoist robe. And Lin chose this method to find heavenly peaches. Did you, No, I didn't. Don't spout nonsense. Lin Junjun immediately denied 3 times in a row. The Celestial Arch. For some reason, the Celestial Arch suddenly felt a little suffocated. He had raised his beloved daughter with so much difficulty, but she was still siding with an outsider? However, what the Celestial Arch didn't know was that his daughter wasn't siding with an outsider. She was only siding with him for food within the Myriad Fruit Orchard. Big Boss Lin is so awesome. He obtained 4 immortal peaches in one go. We have to work hard as well. An undisguisable smile appeared on Lan Xiaoni's face as she looked at the man in the distance. In contrast to Lan Xiaoni's elated expression, most of the living beings were in different moods. And Lin's 4 consecutive critical strikes had dealt a heavy blow to all of the representatives. It was said that those with a pair of eyes that could detect all things in the world would be able to identify different heavenly peaches. But was Lin the only one with a pair of all-seeing eyes? Were they all blind? Including Black Spirit Snake's immortal peaches. Half of the immortal peaches had already been plucked. They didn't have much time left. Hey, I discovered pattern. And Lin's 4 immortal peaches were all found in purple fruits. You're saying there's a higher probability of immortal peaches hidden in purple fruits? That should be the case. Don't you see that he's been wandering around the trees with purple fruits? That's definitely the case. Let's go as well. Thinking that they had discovered a pattern, the representatives of some forces began to swarm towards the trees bearing purple fruits, observing the differences between the fruits. The smarter ones would avoid the trees that Lin had observed before and use the elimination method. And Lin couldn't help but laugh when he saw their expressions. Red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple. For the purple fruits had already been plucked. According to the principle of equal distribution, there should be at least 1 immortal fruit for each color, so it was obvious that there were no more purple fruits. All that was left were fruits of other colors. Black Spirit Snake's yellow pineapple was an immortal peach, so yellow could be excluded as well. He would look for it among the 5 colors of red, orange, green, cyan, and blue. And Lin moved. His goal changed once again. He was no longer looking for the purple fruit. This scene dumbfounded the representatives of the forces who had been feeling smug because of some kind of discovery. Why did you slap us in the face the moment we discovered something? Congratulations to Lan Xiaoni of the West Sea Alliance for obtaining an immortal rank Heavenly Peach. The celestial thearch's voice sounded in the sky again. All of the representatives heaved a collective sigh of relief upon hearing that the alliance leader of the West Sea Alliance had obtained a Heavenly Peach. Thank God it wasn't in Lin from the 4-9 Immortal Sect. This was a very strange mentality, as if they were scared of being tortured. Lan Xiaoni held a blue, heart-shaped fruit in her hands, and she waved the fruit with a vibrant smile upon sensing Lin's gaze. And Lin gave her a thumbs up with a smile. Now he could eliminate the blue fruits as well. He began his frantic search for the red, orange, green, and cyan fruits. Lan Xiaoni looked at Lin, who was still searching for the heavenly peaches. Thank you for your divination, high priests. You two can go find the heavenly peaches now. There's no need to hold back just because of who it is. Gu Yu and Yu Feiyu nodded before continuing to search for heavenly peaches. All of the other members of the 4-9 Immortal Sect also began to unleash their powers. The clown's light bulb eyes were set to the brightest possible state, and anyone who stared directly at it would be blinded. Tui, that wasn't the point. The point was that even the slightest difference between the fruits would be revealed to the naked eye. One of Su Xiaolan's eyes was golden, while the other was white. The golden eyes of the true dragon and the white eyes of the holy flame were very powerful, but they were a little slow. Xin Yuan Cheng seemed to be able to communicate with the fruits. Are you a heavenly peach? The fruit wobbled. What about you? Are you a heavenly peach? The other fruit wobbled. You're quite handsome. Are you a heavenly peach in disguise? The fruit wobbled somewhere else. Countless golden particles of data flashed through Bai Ling's eyes, as if she were conducting some kind of powerful calculation. Xiao Tu was like an old farmer, and he would stop here and there as he rummaged through the fruits, but no one knew if he had discovered anything. Red, orange, green, cyan. Congratulations to the representative of the 10,000 Spirits Immortal Sect, Xin Yuan Lin, for obtaining one immortal rank Heavenly Peach. The celestial thearch's voice reverberated throughout the myriad fruit orchard, creating another round of commotion. Xin Yuan Lin held an orange in his hand with a smile on his face. Thank you. Not long after that, congratulations to the Wind Demon Child of the Heavenly Glacial Spirit Palace for obtaining one immortal rank Heavenly Peach. A humanoid, doll-like monster with 2 heads and a pair of colorful wings held a green fruit in its arms. The Heavenly Glacial Spirit Palace was a first-rate sect next to the Hall of Creation by the name of the Flying Spirit Tribe, and Lin was immediately under immense pressure. There were only red and green fruits left. It's over. There are only 2 immortal rank Heavenly Peaches left. We have to hurry. Sect leader and Lin doesn't look like he's going to make it. After obtaining 4 immortal rank Heavenly Peaches, there haven't been any other immortal rank Heavenly Peaches. Perhaps he was just lucky. A starving camel is still bigger than a horse. Furthermore, he obtained 4 Heavenly Peaches in one go. Just this achievement alone is more than enough for any of the mighty figures present to be able to catch up. All of the representatives discussed spiritedly among themselves as they continued to search. And Lin had initially planned to take all 10 of them, but reality was a little different from his ideal, and he was feeling quite panicked. However, he finally stopped in front of a red gourd-shaped fruit. There were other living beings following him, and he immediately plucked the red gourd. Congratulations to Lin of the 4-9 Immortal Sect for obtaining one immortal rank Heavenly Peach. The celestial thearch's voice fell again, and the myriad fruit orchard fell silent for a moment before erupting into a frenzy. And Lin had finally unleashed his invincible might again. And Lin had once again proven himself with the naked truth. An immortal peach had been discovered through his own power, and no one else had the right to criticize him for it. There's only one immortal peach left. I have to work harder. And Lin encouraged himself. At the same time, Most of the representatives also had the same thoughts. However, less than 2 minutes later, another voice suddenly sounded. Congratulations to Su Xiaolan of the 4-9 Immortal Sect for obtaining 1 immortal rank Heavenly Peach. The celestial Thearcha's voice plunged all of the mighty figures into despair. The final immortal rank Heavenly Peach belonged to the 4-9 Immortal Sect. And Lin turned toward a certain direction, and the woman there just so happened to be looking toward him. The two of them stared at one another. A vibrant smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face as she held a large green, lantern-like fruit in her hands. There was a hint of smugness on her face. Chapter 13:13. And Lin gave Xiaolan a thumbs up upon receiving an immortal rank Heavenly Peach. Nicely done, Xiaolan. All 10 immortal rank Heavenly Peaches had been found. All that was left were tens of thousands of spirit fruits and a few thousand spirit fruits. All of the representatives who hadn't chosen any fruits were dejected as they began to choose other fruits. There were no immortal rank Heavenly Peaches left, but at least there were spirit fruits to soothe their wounded hearts. There were still several hundred representatives choosing, and most of them had already chosen their fruits. And Lin helped the remaining 4-9 Immortal Sect members choose spirit fruits, and all of them were high-rank spirit fruits. Thus, the 4-9 Immortal Sect had reaped a bountiful harvest. After helping the sect members choose their fruits, their mission was complete. A thought suddenly occurred to Lin as he looked at all of the representatives who were still laboriously choosing their fruits. In the next instant, Lin's voice reverberated throughout the myriad fruit orchard. Attention, fellow cultivators. Don't miss this opportunity. Lin is online to help you choose your fruits. 10,000 spirit stones for one try, and high-rank spirit fruits are guaranteed. If you fail to get one, I'll pay you back 10 times. Everyone fell silent as they stared at Lin with astonishment etched on their faces. And Lin continued, I'm sure everyone knows how powerful I am, and I have a guarantee of my reputation and quality. All of the 4-9 Immortal Sect members, all of the representatives, a spirit fruit was generally worth over 10,000 spirit stones, so it was definitely worth it to be able to choose a spirit fruit. Aside from the dozen or so Dao integration stage super mighty figures, who could guarantee that they would be able to choose a spirit fruit on the first try? Most of the people present had tears streaming down their faces as they held onto an ordinary spirit fruit. Now, Lin had opened up an online fruit selection service. It had to be said that many mighty figures were tempted. Me. Lin, help me. Xiang Qingya of the Dark Phoenix Imperial family raised her hand first as she yelled at Lin with excitement in her eyes. Lin was in dire need of a case study, and Xiang Qingya stepped forward to help him. It had to be said that this was the perfect opportunity for him. He turned to Xiang Qingya with a grateful expression. Xiang Qingya handed over the money, and Lin casually glanced at one of the trees before saying, Pick it. Xiang Qingya immediately went over and plucked the translucent white fruit. In that instant, the white fruit gradually began to change, turning blue and white. At the same time, it emitted a rich energy fluctuation. It's a spirit fruit. It really is a spirit fruit. It's a very high-grade spiritual fruit. What are you waiting for? Hurry up, or else you'll have to line up. When the representatives of the various forces saw this scene, they could no longer hold back and rush forward. The scene immediately became chaotic. Don't worry. Line up one by one, and Lin said cheerfully. Apart from those who were confident in their identification skills or those who were more arrogant, almost half of the representatives who hadn't chosen their fruits were here. Everyone wanted to do a business that was guaranteed to be profitable. Thus, all of the representatives followed Lin's lead and chose the spirit fruits of the higher quality. Lin's wallet was bulging, and they had obtained the spirit fruits, so everyone was happy. All of the Dao integration stage super mighty figures were envious at the sight of Lin's money-making methods, and they really wanted to run over and yell, Help me look for spirit fruits. I can do that too. However, they didn't have the face to do so. Firstly, they might not be as fast as Lin, and secondly, they didn't have Lin's track record. He had identified 5 immortal rank heavenly peaches and countless spirit fruits on his own. How could they compare to him? There were only a handful of these mighty figures who could command the entire Tai Chu continent. I can't compare to Enlin. I can't compare to him in the air above the myriad fruit orchard. The 5 emperors of the celestial court stared at Enlin with their mouths agape. What the hell is Enlin thinking? How can he make money like this? Emperor Ziwei stared at Enlin with incredulity on his face. The celestial thearch's eyes almost bulged out of their sockets as he gritted his teeth. This Enlin is making money, but we're going to lose over 100 more spirit fruits. All of the spirit fruits in the celestial court are going to be squandered away by him. Enlin really isn't scrupulous in order to make money. He's making money, but he's making the celestial court lose money. How terrifying. Emperor Tian Huang also gritted his teeth. Can we stop him? I'm feeling a little distressed, Emperor Changsheng said. Emperor Qinghua stroked his snowy white beard with a smile. I don't think the rules from before didn't say that I couldn't do this. Enlin was also acting within the rules. The celestial the arch massaged his brows. What a headache. Lin Junjun snuck a glance at the 5 emperors before turning to Enlin, upon whom she couldn't help but chuckle. What AB asterisk starred. He's even more vicious than I am when it comes to screwing people over. He even dares to use the celestial court's money to make money. She couldn't help but think back to the time when Enlin had used information about the purple star to extort money from her. She was still very angry, but she couldn't help but burst into laughter. Time slowly passed by. Enlin was able to ensure that all 260 representatives were able to obtain spirit fruits without any mishaps. He had completed his mission to perfection. All of the representatives were astonished by Enlin's abilities, but at the same time, they were also a little more grateful toward him. After all, this was a win-win situation. Wait, no, it should be a win-win situation. It was the Celestial Court that was hosting the event. Some of the representatives also felt a little more respect and approval toward the 4-9 Immortal sect. Perhaps this was a reliable force to work with in the future. It was time for the event. Everyone was enveloped by spatial power and returned to the heavenly palace. Enlin stowed 2,600,000 spirit stones into his storage ring, bringing his total wealth to a whopping 190,600,000 spirit stones. He was truly a moneybags of the cultivation world. The Celestial Arch forced a smile onto his face. The 4-9 Immortal sect is the biggest winner of this event. Please welcome sect leader Enlin to say a few words. Enlin faltered slightly upon hearing this. He still had time to say a few words. All of the 4-9 Immortal sect members cheered as they pushed Enlin to his feet. Not only were Enlin from the 4-9 Immortal sect doing this, but many of the representatives from other powers were also looking at Enlin with benevolent expressions, and many of them were even clapping their hands. Thunderous applause erupted. Enlin stood up and cleared his throat. Our 4-9 Immortal sect is a sect that strives for harmony and development, and we strive for moderation and modesty in all things. What was this sense of déjà vu? Everyone's lips twitched involuntarily upon hearing this. The Celestial Arch felt like he was about to throw up a mouthful of blood. Sure enough, Enlin continued, I only want half of this garden filled with the fragrance of spring fruits and the dazzling, immortal peaches. Everyone fell silent upon hearing this. The Celestial Arch, all of the representatives. Chapter 13-14. Almost the exact same words had been uttered during the Heavenly Peach Banquet. Last time, all of the representatives felt like Enlin was quite arrogant, but he was also quite exceptional. They knew that the 4-9 Immortal sect had secured half of the spoils for the first event, which was actually quite acceptable. After all, they had power and luck. However, the 4-9 Immortal sect still managed to secure more than half of the spoils for the second event. This was a little terrifying. After delivering his statement, Enlin stood proudly at the Heavenly Peach Banquet, facing the gazes of a dozen or so Dao Integration Stage, Super Mighty Figures, and close to 2,000 Return to Void Stage and Soul Formation Stage Mighty Figures with no fear on his face. How arrogant was this? It was as dazzling as the sun. Zhu Shan, who was secretly envious of Tang Wulin, had already been thoroughly humiliated by this scene. Lin Junjun heaved a faint sigh. She was starting to regret her deal with Enlin. This be asterisk starred. His arrogance knew no bounds. All of the representatives could sense a sense of pride surging straight into the heavens from Enlin's calm expression. If a normal person flexed, others might ask why they didn't want to ascend to the heavens. Enlin's words were meant to tell everyone that he was going to ascend to the heavens. His 9 immortal sect was going to ascend to the heavens. The atmosphere in the stadium was silent for a few seconds, and then it was followed by a tsunami of applause. The representatives were not stingy with their applause, cheering and applauding. In particular, all of the representatives who had cooperated with Enlin in the past were applauding him with spirit stones. They revered Enlin and revered Enlin. No one knew what heights Enlin would reach in the future. The only thing that was certain was that he was already very bad *SS now, and he was going to be even more bad *SS in the future. If they were still bickering with Enlin now, they were either idiots or idiots. Thus, Enlin returned to his seat amid the applause in an extremely calm and collected manner. Shui Zhantian pounced toward Enlin excitedly. "Master, you're the role model that I've been following for the rest of my life." That speech just then was simply too thrilling. I felt like I was suddenly enlightened after listening to it, and I almost flew into the heavens. Enlin slapped Shui Zhantian away before turning to the woman beside him. "Xiaolan, what do you think of my performance this time? It's the same thing, but it's even more powerful than last time." Su Xiaolan chuckled. "Even I've been intimidated by your aura." "Haha, of course. How could your Tao companion be ordinary? He must be a dragon among men, a heaven-favored figure." Enlin was a little proud of himself. Su Xiaolan rolled her eyes. "All right, let's distribute the fruits first." "Fruit distribution? There are 20 of us. Isn't one fruit for each of us?" Enlin tilted his head and asked in confusion. "That won't do, master. For example, a lazy fish like me doesn't deserve something as valuable as an immortal peach," Xiao Hong replied in her sweet voice. Enlin, what else could he say to a pet beast with such self-awareness? "I think we should distribute the fruits according to contributions." There's no doubt that Enlin contributed the most, so he should receive 2 immortal peaches. Does anyone have any objections? Everyone shook their heads in response. Bai Ling continued. "Then Su Xiaolan gets 1 immortal peach, and the remaining 3 immortal peaches will be split among the 18 of us. As for the 14 spirit fruits, we'll use them as sect resources." Bai Ling's method of distribution was very reasonable, and no one had any objections. At this moment, the Celestial Arch began to speak again. "Next up is the 3rd event, the official commencement of the Heavenly Peach Banquet." The Celestial Thearcha's voice fell, and bursts of iridescent light suddenly appeared in the pristine white heavenly palace. An extremely dreamy light slowly descended as soothing music began to play. Enlin knew that this was the time for free activities. Those who wanted to eat, those who wanted to drink, and those who wanted to dance, they danced. As the biggest winner of this banquet, the 4-9 Immortal Sect was different from the other sections. They were about to conduct an Immortal Rank Heavenly Peach tasting event, and all of their sect members would get to eat one. As the mastermind of the Purple Star Laboratory, Bai Ling was able to cut down every single molecule evenly, so everyone naturally allowed her to do the cutting. 3 Immortal Rank Heavenly Peaches were placed on the table. Each and every one of the Heavenly Peaches was red and tender, like a shy young woman in the midst of a spring peach blossom. As soon as they were released, the peculiar fruity aroma of the immortal peaches wafted through the air, making one feel as if they had been lifted into the clouds. It was said that a mortal could extend their lifespan by 100 years just by inhaling a mouthful of an immortal rank heavenly peach. Not only that, but due to the rich immortal chi being released from the immortal peach, a small white coiled dragon had also appeared. The dragon circled around the immortal peach, looking holy and dignified. It was as if it were a guardian that would not allow anyone to violate the immortal peach of immortality. This type of heavenly peach was even more appetizing. Bai Ling extended a slender finger and made a slight movement. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Countless thin nets instantly sliced the 3 heavenly peaches into 18 portions. She also pulled out 3 shimmering golden heavenly peach cores. The heavenly peach cores contain extremely powerful wood-type essence, so they can be used for pill refinement, Bai Ling said. Leave pill refinement to me, I'm good at it. Su Xiaolan raised her hand. Thus, all 3 immortal peaches were taken care of. Everyone swallowed involuntarily as the translucent fruit petals appeared before their eyes. And Lin and Su Xiaolan were even more impressive as they ate the entire heavenly peach. Crunch! And Lin took a bite. A crisp and refreshing sensation instantly spread through his entire body, creating an indescribable sense of satisfaction. This was the ultimate peach flavor, and the flavor lingered in one's mouth for a very long time. Furthermore, it began to improve as time passed. The heavenly peach's dragon massage unblocked one's blood and meridians, and even one's sea of vital energy began to churn as one's soul trembled. It feels so good. I feel like I'm going to ascend to the heavens. And Lin let loose a cry of surprise. Me too. Su Xiaolan let loose a soft moan. Whoosh! A pair of white wings appeared behind the two of them. And Lin and Su Xiaolan held hands as they rose into the air and danced through the air. Black Spirit Snake was just about to eat a heavenly peach when she abruptly stopped what she was doing. A disdainful expression appeared on her face. It feels so embarrassing. All the other 4-9 Immortal Sect members also wore extremely satisfied expressions after eating the immortal peaches. Even though they weren't euphoric, it was still an extremely enjoyable experience. Seeing this scene, the other big shots were filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. The 4-9 Immortal Sect members were enjoying themselves while they could only look on. After eating the heavenly peaches, all of the 4-9 Immortal Sect members laid down on their chairs in exhaustion, eating the spirit fruits on the table as if they were nothing more than rice. Now it was time to make friends. There were many more sects that came to the 4-9 Immortal Sects banquet and offered to establish friendly relations with them than he had imagined. If it weren't for the fact that all of the other sects were too embarrassed to line up, there would be 2 long lines of people waiting in line. There were also some beauties who came to invite Enlin to dance, but all of them were turned down by Enlin and blacklisted by him. They were clearly trying to get him to do their dirty work. They were up to no good. Thus, the Heavenly Peach banquet drew to a conclusion amid a joyous atmosphere. Everything returned to normal. Enlin thought about it for a moment. He had been skipping classes for 2 months, so it was about time for him to go back to class. Chapter 13-15. Enlin rode onto Bai and flew toward the United University of Cultivation. Beside him was a little whale that was blowing bubbles nonstop. The bubbles exploded in midair to reveal a string of text. The little whale blew bubbles. Sigh, with the help of the 5 emperors, my body can expand and shrink, but the heavenly peaches I eat are tasteless, wah, and Lin chuckled. Don't you already have 10 million spirit stones? High-rank blood differentiation divine pills cost around 300 million spirit stones, so you only need to earn another 290 million. The little whale was even more depressed upon hearing this. Do you really think 290 million spirit stones is that easy to earn? That's an astronomical number. Who knows when I'll be able to earn that amount? Celestial Immortal Yu Hua consoled. Don't worry, Principal. There are many opportunities to earn money in the future, so you'll definitely be able to earn it all someday. The little whale was still very dejected. I'm afraid that I'll become a Kuan Peng in a few 100,000 years. A few 100,000 years? And Lin was quite surprised. I don't have to wait that long. I can earn 100 million spirit stones in a year, so I'll be able to earn it all in 3 years. Celestial Immortal Yu Hua, Wang Xinyu, the little whale suddenly pounced toward Lin and blew bubbles in a frenzy. Take me with you. Take me with you, big boss. And Lin was speechless. You're the principal, and I'm just a student. Please be careful. The little whale continued to blow bubbles. Mr. Enlin, you're the first person in the history of our university. Yesterday, you were proud of the university and today, the university is proud of you, so I'm also proud of you. What's wrong with begging you to take me with you?" He sounded like he was making a lot of sense. However, and Lin still refused with a serious expression. "No way. I'm a man who has to save up for my wife. I'm going to hold a world-class wedding in 100 years, and that's going to require a lot of money." And Lin spouted out his heroic words. Su Xiaolan was flying on her sword not far away, and she lowered her head with a slight blush on her face. Wang Xinyu would definitely scoff at the notion that it was a world-class wedding. However, Wang Xinyu had no choice but to believe in Lin's words. After all, he and the immortals of the Celestial Court had witnessed in Lin's performance during the Saturn Peach Feast as a non-participant. It was not impossible for such a talented man to hold a world-class wedding. Soon, and Lin returned to school. The leisurely and natural life began again. And Lin didn't really need to cultivate now. All he had to do was wait for Chang, Yi's divine pill, and Ziwei's divine tool to progress to the return to void stage. Wait, little Xie was also a divine tool. And Lin suddenly came back to his senses. If that was the case, then he would be able to progress to the return to void stage once Chang, Yi's divine pill was refined. Suddenly, he was looking forward to it. To a usage class, on the wide lawn, and Lin was wielding an ordinary magic tool, and he was casually swinging it through the air. He was sparring with his classmate, Sun Xinglian, who was one of the 4 lackeys from the Myriad Mountain realm. She was a cold and aloof beauty with a pair of huge breasts. She had once been regarded as the fiercest girl by Lin. However, her title of fiercest girl had already been taken away by a Grandmaster Construction Cultivator. That was an F-rank powerful being, and the average woman was no match for her. Even if Sun Xinglian wasn't the fiercest, she was still extremely fierce. She wore a blue Taoist robe, and her tall and curvaceous figure, as well as her long, slender neck and intricate collarbones, made her appear like a beautiful and proud swan. And Lin casually swung the magic tool in his hand, and Sun Xinglian was forced into retreat. Her breasts bounced up and down as she moved, and it was quite a spectacle to behold. And Lin observed for a while and spotted a very obvious opening in Sun Xinglian's defense. He casually flicked his long sword toward that opening, and the blade of his sword glinted with a cold light as it rested against Sun Xinglian's neck. "I lost." Sun Xinglian heaved a sigh, but there was a hint of excitement in her eyes. Through her sparring with Lin, she had gained a lot of new insights into the Tao of the sword. And Lin was completely oblivious to this, and he merely nodded with a smile on his face. He had already transcended to another realm, and he didn't think that his swordsmanship was all that good, nor did he know what his Tao of the sword meant to the students he was sparring with. He was just bored out of his mind, and his classmates wanted to spar with him, so he played along. Nearby, the teacher responsible for teaching swordsmanship stroked his beard and heaved a long sigh. Sigh. In this day and age, even a student can wield the sword better than me. His sword intent is ethereal and profound, and the Tao of the sword is simplified. The students don't feel any psychological pressure when sparring with him, and the results are many times better than when I personally teach them. The teacher sighed with both melancholy and admiration. Finishing his apprenticeship before even graduating, this was probably the kind of student that Lin was, right? It's my turn. Big brother, and please enlighten me. A pretty girl in a pink dress with short hair jumped out and performed a salute with a wide grin. And Lin couldn't help but sigh again upon seeing this flat-chested girl, Miao Tian. Sure enough, girls with bigger breasts were more realistic and three-dimensional. Right at this moment, whoosh, 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 a few icy darts flew through the air toward him. And Lin wasn't paying attention, and he instinctively swung the long sword in his hand toward the icy darts. Clang, clang, clang. The angle was accurate, and the force behind the slash was terrifying. The spirit tool icy darts were sent flying into the air by Lin's slash. Miao Tian was at a loss. The air suddenly fell into silence. Soon, Miao Tian's eyes reddened, and she sobbed. "And Lin, you're a bully. I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention and used too much force. Didn't you refine those spirit tools? You can summon them back." And Lin said anxiously, Meow Tian had an aggrieved expression. The darts were sent too far away by you. I can't sense them anymore. And Lin, it was truly embarrassing to lose a classmate's weapon with one slash. With no other choice, and Lin could only release his powerful divine sense and help Meow Tian retrieve her weapon. The two of them continued to spar. And Lin didn't use his sword, and he performed catching darts with his bare hands. It had to be said, as long as one's cultivation base was high enough, everything became simple. Not invincible in everything, but proficient in everything was no problem. Immediately afterward, he played hand-to-hand combat with Luo Zipping, played Wind with Zhong Yongyan, and played Myriad Spirit Tai Chi Explosion with Big Brother Chung Tui, playing the Tao of Myriad Spirit Tai Chi. After his cultivation, he returned to his dorm room, and he played with the three beauties, Little Red and Little Na. Little Na was becoming wilder and wilder, and Little Red was becoming more and more of salted fish. At the end of the day, Little Goo was still the best. Little Goo was gentle and understanding, and she would occasionally transform into a beautiful little butterfly and dance around him. It was a great feeling. The days passed peacefully just like that. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed, and Lin and Su Xiaolan strolled along the tree-lined path of the campus as they walked toward a nearby classroom. Recently, he had been attending all of his classes on time, and he cherished every single day on campus. However, an extremely grave expression suddenly appeared on Lin's face as he turned toward a certain direction outside the university. Something's coming this way. Chapter 13:16. What is it? Su Xiaolan's expression also became quite tense upon hearing this. Something that could make Lin's expression change so drastically had to be quite something. It looks like. Lin turned toward the distance as an expression of shock appeared on his face. A snow mountain. A snow mountain? Su Xiaolan's expression was one of incredulity. A snow mountain flying toward them from afar was already quite unimaginable. Xioshan United University was situated on a floating island, and there was a snow mountain in the distance. Didn't that mean that the snow mountain was flying into the sky? That was even more unimaginable. However, Su Xiaolan soon realized that Lin was right. The black dot in the distance gradually expanded, and it really was a flying mountain. A mountain over a kilometer tall flew toward them from afar. The top of the mountain was covered in pristine white snow, and there were all types of peculiar plants growing down below, making it look no different from a normal snow mountain. However, this mountain was imbued with an extremely peculiar power. That's right, for some reason, Lin had a feeling that the snow mountain was no ordinary being. Whoosh! A gargantuan and terrifying formation appeared over the entire island. This was a Tao integration stage automatic defensive formation, not to mention a mere 1,000-meter-tall snow mountain. Even if a 10,000-meter-tall divine mountain were to crash down, it would still be able to withstand it without a scratch. However, when the snow mountain crashed into the formation, a peculiar twisting power tore a massive hole into the formation, upon which the snow mountain crashed into a mountain within the university. Boom! An earth-shattering boom erupted. The snow mountain was flattened by the impact. Holy F***CK. What's going on? And Lin was completely dumbstruck. Shouldn't the snow mountain crash into the formation be pulverized? Why did this seem to be different from what he had imagined? This sudden development had alerted all of the mighty figures within the university. The snow mountain had crashed into the outskirts of the university, so none of the students had noticed it. Right at this moment, his expression shifted drastically. Holy F***CK. Again. He turned toward the same direction, where another black dot had appeared. The black dot grew larger and larger, and surprisingly, it was also a snow mountain. The snow mountain whistled over from the distant sky, crashing into the formation and crashing into a huge lake in the forest of 1,000 peaks. Rumble. The earth shook violently again. The impact created huge waves in the lake. Water splashed everywhere, and the ground cracked tens of thousands of meters. In the end, the beautiful lake turned into a cold and desolate snowy mountain. All the juniors in the classroom felt the ground shake violently, as if the earth had sneezed. outside the classroom, on a shady path not far away. What the hell? Where did these snowy mountains come from? And Lin stared at a certain direction in the void, as if he was facing a formidable enemy. He couldn't see what was at the end, but he knew that there must be something there. Su Xiaolan suddenly thought of something and immediately said, "And Lin, do you still remember? Not long ago, the snow maidens were thriving on the border of the opposite shore realm, but countless snowy mountains suddenly fell from the sky, inflicting heavy casualties on them." An expression of shock appeared on Lin's face. "You're saying that these snowy mountains are the same snowy mountains that attacked the snow maidens?" Su Xiaolan nodded with a grave expression. "That's very likely. This was a very bad sign. The snow maidens had Dao integration stage emperors among their ranks, but they were still in such a miserable state. Now that the snowy mountains were targeting them, how are they supposed to defend themselves?" Right at this moment, another snowy mountain flew toward them from the distance. This snowy mountain was over 10,000 feet tall, and it was like an extremely terrifying meteorite imbued with boundless kinetic energy, as if it were going to completely sink the floating continent that was Xiaoxian United University. "Crap, the snowy mountain is going to crash into our university." And Lin's expression shifted drastically. Su Xiaolan's heart also jolted upon seeing this. The university was where many students and teachers attended classes. If the snowy mountain really were to crash into the university, then the casualties would be extremely severe. The sound of emergency sirens erupted throughout the entire university. A series of powerful auras had already soared into the sky. "Impudence! This is the territory of the Celestial Court. How dare you wreak havoc on the university grounds?" Enraged roars erupted into the heavens as close to a dozen return to void stage mighty figures sprang into action. All of them were teachers of the university, including Vice Principal Yuhua. At this moment, tens of thousands of students and teachers had already run out of the university, and their faces instantly paled at the sight of the gargantuan, snowy mountain hurtling toward them. Some of the first-year students had even lost all strength in their legs and were unable to move. Boom, boom, boom. One earth-shattering spell technique after another was unleashed toward the snowy mountain in the distance. All of the students and teachers on the ground fled for their lives as they looked on with anticipation at the battle taking place in the distance. All of the return to void stage spell techniques crashed into the snowy mountain and exploded violently, sending devastating shockwaves into the heavens. However, the snowy mountains seemed to have been enshrouded by a mysterious power. All of the power was unable to penetrate this barrier, and some of it was even absorbed into the mountain. All of the students and teachers turned even paler upon seeing this. Their return to void stage spell techniques were completely ineffective. This wasn't a snowy mountain. This was a monster. Great astral shift. A dazzling divine Dao light erupted from Vice Principal Yuhua's body as countless stars twisted the space around him before enshrouding the snowy mountain in an attempt to move it away. His idea was actually quite correct. If he couldn't destroy the snowy mountain, then he would just have to move it. However, the power of the snowy mountain far exceeded Vice Principal Yuhua's imagination. When his power of the divine Dao came into contact with the snowy mountain, it was kept at bay by an invisible barrier and was completely unable to affect the snowy mountain. Vice Principal Yuhua's attack seemed to have struck thin air. "It's over." His face was deathly pale with despair. Right at this moment, a gargantuan whale suddenly appeared. It was over 3,000 meters tall, which was over a head taller than the massive snowy mountain. Its body was over 10,000 meters in length, and it instantly obscured the entire sky. It was as if a mythological beast had descended upon this world. Principal Wang Xinyu had sprung into action. "Howl!" A forlorn cry erupted as the whale crashed headfirst into the snowy mountain with immense power. Seeing as spell technique attacks were ineffective, then it was time to use the most direct physical attack. That's right, this was the full-force attack of a Dao integration stage super mighty figure, as well as the purest form of physical attack. The terrifying force it unleashed could even shatter a continent. Boom! The gargantuan whale crashed into the snowy mountain. An earth-shattering boom erupted as shock waves proliferated for over 50 kilometers. Crack, crack, crack. Semi-transparent cracks began to appear on the snowy mountain like a spider web. The snowy mountain appeared to be completely unscathed, but its power did not vanish. Instead, it pierced through the invisible barrier and struck the interior of the snowy mountain. Finally, the snowy mountain was knocked off course by the gargantuan whale. The snowy mountain crashed into the ground, raising a few small mountains to the ground and causing a violent earthquake, as if the entire floating continent were about to be torn apart. Everyone knew that if the snowy mountain were to crash into the classrooms, it would most likely destroy most of them. Tens of thousands of students and teachers all yelled, "Long live the principal!" However, they only had a chance to celebrate for a few seconds before two more black dots hurtled toward them from afar. These two black dots were also crashing toward the United University of Cultivation. Wang Xinyu didn't even have a chance to catch his breath before two more snowy mountains hurtled toward him. "Run!" Vice Principal Yu Hua roared. The teachers immediately began to evacuate the students. No matter how powerful Wang Xinyu was, he could only block one snowy mountain at most. But now, two snowy mountains were flying toward him.